The Wandering Soul Planet. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 526, First Test. But just before Susan and Nightfire came face to face, an unexpected and strange encounter took place. That morning, Susan was leading his commando team through the dense forest. This time they were walking through the air corridor in the forest. Suddenly, the monkey soldier walking in front of the team stopped, and then the leader who was leading the way came back to report to Susan. "Leader, there's an accident ahead. We found a group of lions attacking a female elephant, and the female elephant is fighting a desperate battle with the lions to protect a baby elephant." "Ah, there is such a thing," Susan said in surprise. "Let's go and take a look." As soon as he finished speaking, he took several capable men around him and followed the leader to quickly move towards the accident site, naturally taking the swinging method to pass through the trees. Soon, Susan led everyone to a big tree next to the accident site and was stunned by the scene in front of him. In order to protect a baby elephant hiding behind her, a mother elephant was using her trunk to hit several lionesses that were rushing forward. After knocking down the lion, another lion rushed forward. A male lion was behind the lionesses, leisurely, but his eyes were fixed on the baby elephant behind the mother elephant, ready to give it a fatal blow at any time. The situation was very critical. Seeing this, Susan immediately ordered, "Ignite, throw gunpowder." As soon as he finished speaking, several capable men around him hurriedly put down their backpacks, first took out two small flints and a small dry branch from them, used the flints to make sparks to ignite the branch, and then took out a gunpowder loaded with coconut shells from the backpack, lit the fuse, and estimated that it was almost done, so they threw it hard at the lions that were attacking the mother elephant. Some of the coconut gunpowder exploded on the ground, some exploded in the air, and some were duds that did not fire for a long time. However, even so, the two fighting parties, elephants and lions, were frightened and thought that it was a thunderbolt from the blue sky. However, the black gunpowder developed by Susan was like a big firecracker. It sounded scary, but it could not cause much damage to the target. Look, the lions at the scene were almost unharmed. They were just scared and lay on the ground, not daring to move, but they did not see much damage. Was this Susan's negligence? No. In fact, Susan had already considered this issue carefully. He knew that if he wanted this simple black gunpowder to have a greater lethality, he had to add some hard objects such as pebbles to the gourd and coconut. However, in this way, the weight of the black gunpowder would inevitably increase significantly, and it would produce almost twice as much gunpowder explosives. However, this would inevitably increase the burden on the monkey soldiers, and Susan's team would have to travel thousands of miles, which would inevitably seriously affect the combat effectiveness of the soldiers. Therefore, Susan decided to only load black powder into the explosives to reduce everyone's marching burden. When the troops were only tens of kilometers away from the original tribal base camp near the mountains and rivers, he would modify the black powder explosives, pour out about 40% of the black powder, and then mix pebbles and other hard objects into the explosives, gourds and coconut shells, to make lethal explosives. The poured black powder could also be made into new explosives, killing two birds with one stone. At this time, Susan saw the lions lying on the ground trembling with fear, so he shouted in lion language from the tree, "Dear lion ladies and gentlemen, your behavior of bullying the elephant orphan and widow has violated the heavenly law. If you continue to be stubborn, we will immediately kill you with thunder. When the time comes, don't blame us for not warning you in advance. Do you understand?" The female lions lying on the ground had been frightened by the previous explosions. When they heard Susan's explanation, they immediately believed it. One of the female lions stammered, Is this true? No, please don't set off thunder anymore, we'll leave right away." As soon as she finished speaking, she got up and turned around to leave. Unexpectedly, at this moment, the male lion suddenly said, "You are not allowed to leave." "No one is allowed to leave without my permission," the female lion asked tremblingly. "My lord, why can't you leave? Didn't you hear the loud sound of the thunder just now?" "What bullshit thunder? It's just a trick played by bored monkeys to scare cowards," the male lion said bluntly. Is this really a trick played by monkeys? No way, how can it explode like thunder?" the female lion asked doubtfully. "Why would I lie to you? I have seen a lot of tricks like this. In this world, monkeys are the only ones who can play tricks, which are called monkey tricks. The louder these monkey tricks are, the more intimidating they are. Don't believe them so much? You still want to lie to me? No way, the male lion said with a stern look. Then, the male lion raised his head and shouted towards Susan, "My lord, I am standing here. If you have the guts, throw another thunderbolt and see." While shouting, he thought, what a crap, it only makes a noise, but does no harm, who is afraid of it? When Susan saw that this female lion had no idea of the world and jumped out to challenge him, he could not help but get angry. Good boy, you actually dare to go against me. If I don't let you taste my power, you won't know that the horse king also has 3 eyes. Having made up his mind, he lit a small piece of dry branch with a big fire, and then took out a gourd of black gunpowder. He used the burning dry branch to light the fuse of the gunpowder, calculated the time and distance, and threw it at the head of the arrogant lion. With a bang, the gourd of black gunpowder happened to be about half a foot away from the lion's head, and a violent explosion occurred. The broken gourd fragments just blinded one of the lion's eyes, causing him to scream in pain. Oh, my God. Before he finished speaking, he tucked his tail and ran away in disgrace. The lionesses naturally followed him and fled with the lion. After witnessing the power of black gunpowder, Susan and his men were ecstatic, and everyone cheered and jumped for joy. No mistake, 1 poem, 1 post, 1 content, 1 book, 1 bar, 1 6, 1 9, 1 book, 1 bar, 1 look. At this time, the mother elephant came to her senses and brought the baby elephant to the big tree where Susan and others were standing. She expressed her sincere gratitude to Susan and invited Susan and others to sit on her back to repay her for saving her and her baby. Susan was so kind that she agreed to her request happily. She climbed on the mother elephant's back with several lemur brothers and started a romantic and pleasant elephant ride. Of course, only Susan and other leaders had such good treatment. The other lemurs continued to move forward step by step as before. The mother elephant carried Susan and other lemurs for a long distance. When they reached a mountain cliff that elephants could not pass, they ended this interesting elephant ride and finally had to say goodbye to Susan and other lemurs. Chapter 527, Thunder. When the team was still hundreds of miles away from the original tribe's base camp Yashanbei Shui, Susan ordered the team of hundreds of monkey soldiers to be divided into 10 search teams to go to dozens of miles to find hard pebbles in order to transform the black powder in their backpacks into lethal explosives, that is, mixing pebbles and other hard objects into the gourds and coconut shells filled with black powder to make lethal explosives. 2 days later, the 10 search teams returned to the prearranged location and reported their search results. About half of them found nothing, and the other half had different results. Some said that they found many pebbles by a stream, but they were too big and wet. Some said that they found fine sand and some pebbles by a small river. Some were wet, some were not too wet. Some found white pebbles in a small canyon, but they were mixed in the soil and were relatively wet when dug out. The rest were similar to these situations. Susan made some comparisons and thought it would be better to go to the river to transform the explosives. Soon everyone came to the river and found that the fine sand and small pebbles on the riverbank far away from the river were relatively dry. So they continued to transform and upgrade the black powder explosives on the spot, turning the black powder, which was only firecracker-like, into explosives with lethality. After this transformation, the number of explosives, which originally only had 500 to 600, now exceeded 1,000, and the weight of so many explosives was almost more than twice the previous weight. Such a load seriously exceeded the load capacity of the lemurs, so that the monkeys could not swing freely on the trees. After all, fine sands and pebbles were much heavier than black powder. In fact, Susan and his team could not produce nearly twice as many explosives for the time being. After all, the number of containers, gourds and coconut shells, for the black leaf monkeys had not increased, and they were still the same. The extra black powder that was poured out could only be properly kept and kept away from moisture. It had to be hidden in a secret place, and this important hiding work could only be done by Susan himself and a few reliable lemurs around him. After all these things were handled, Susan couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief, and he had no idea how the next battle plan would proceed. Finally, he decided to send 5 groups, 3 in each group, of the smartest lemurs to the surrounding areas to investigate the situation of the night fire. Only by knowing ourselves and the enemy could we win the battle. The next morning, a group of scout monkeys came back to report that about 70 miles away from here, at a 45° southwest corner, next to a large forest, there was a large lawn where hundreds of lemurs armed with cold weapons were fighting with a group of wild wolves of equal number. The scene was in chaos, with both sides fighting back and forth, and the battle was exciting and stalemate. After hearing about this, Su-san suddenly became excited and decided to lead his troops to go there, not wanting to miss this good show. When the troops were only half a mile away from the scene of the accident, Su-san suddenly asked everyone to stop and rest for a while, and he led a bow and arrow assault team to scout ahead. The reason why he was so careful was that he did not hear the wolf's cry, nor did he hear the sound of fighting and struggling between the two sides. However, when he and his archery commando team quietly approached the scene, they were stunned by the scene in front of them. On the lawn 180 meters away, a large group of lemurs were cleaning the battlefield. The bodies of wolves and lemurs were lying all over the ground. However, the bodies of wolves far outnumbered those of lemurs. It was estimated that the remaining wolves had already escaped. Obviously, the battle ended with the lemurs winning a great victory. It turned out that this was a field brigade led by Halasho, one of the most trusted generals under Yulihiro, which consisted of 300 spear monkeys and 100 bow and arrow monkeys. Since Yulihiro captured Su-san's original tribe village Yashanbangshu and captured the 20 blacksmiths, later Su-san rescued 5 or 6 blacksmiths. He quickly mastered the ancient people's combat techniques of using spears and bows through the blacksmiths. Now Yulihiro controls more than 2,000 lemurs in the team, with 4 or 5 field brigades. The current field brigade led by Halasho is one of them, and it is also one of the most combat-effective brigades. At the moment, this brigade has finally won the final victory at the cost of nearly 100 monkey casualties, and is now preparing to enjoy the fruits of victory, skinning and eating the killed wild wolves, and roasting them on branches and firewood. At this time, the sun was about to set, and the enemy monkeys gathered together in groups of 7, 8, or even 10, and started to grill the bloody wolf meat. Seeing this, Su-san whispered to the archery assault team leader beside him, "See, there is a big forest on our side, and there is a big pond on the other side of the big lawn. You go back and quietly call all the brothers up to surround this side of the big lawn, and then throw the explosives directly into the bonfire closest to you or closer to you. Remember not to light a fire, which will alert the enemy. Throw it directly into the fire, remember." The archery assault team leader quickly agreed, "I remember, just throw the black gunpowder directly into the fire. Then I will go and call them all over, surround these dogs and throw gunpowder balls directly." As soon as he finished speaking, he heard a swoosh sound, and the monkeys disappeared. About half an hour later, almost all the members of Su-san's men gathered together and surrounded the large lawn. At this time, Halasho and his subordinates were eating happily, completely unaware that death was about to come. They were still immersed in wonderful dreams. Su-san gave the order in a loud voice, 1, 2, 3, throw. Then, he suddenly exerted force and threw the gourd filled with black powder in his hand accurately into the bonfire closest to him. Almost at the same time, gourds and coconut shells filled with black powder flew out of the woods. Some fell into the bonfire, some hit the enemy monkeys, and some rolled to the ground. Only 2 or 3 seconds later, there were successive explosions, which made the enemy monkeys howl like ghosts. However, the bonfires far from the woods or Su-san and his men had not yet been filled with explosives. Seeing this, Su-san shouted, "Go ahead and throw gunpowder balls nearby." After saying that, he took out another gunpowder ball from his backpack. Then jumped down from the tree and led his brothers to the bonfires that had not yet been filled with explosives. At this moment, the enemy monkeys near the bonfires near the big woods were almost all killed, injured, or stunned by the explosions, and had basically lost their combat effectiveness. The enemy monkeys that had not been bombed had no idea what was going on, and were stunned. Could it be that thunder had struck the ground? But it didn't seem like it, because there were no dark clouds or lightning in the sky. When they saw Su-san and his men emerging from the woods with hundreds of lemurs and walking towards them, they immediately felt something was wrong, so they immediately grabbed the spears and bows and arrows on the ground and prepared to fight. Chapter 528, Mysterious Canyon. However, they never dreamed that the enemy did not want to rush up to fight with them, but stopped 40 or 50 meters away from them, and then threw round objects into the fire. Just when the enemy was puzzled, the explosives in the fire exploded boom, boom, boom one after another. Because this group of enemy monkeys were standing, they suffered more casualties than the first group of enemy monkeys sitting on the ground. Those standing next to the campfire were almost all killed or fainted, but those standing far away were not killed, but their arms or thighs were injured. The captain of this enemy monkey field brigade, the enemy leader Halasho, was killed by a coconut shell black gunpowder that flew into the campfire in front of Susan and his men when the first batch of explosives was thrown. A few smart guys felt something was wrong when the first batch of explosions occurred. When Susan and the others rushed out of the woods, they saw that the situation was not good and ran towards the pool on the other side of the lawn. With a plop, they plunged into the water, forgetting even their weapons. When these monkeys who fell into the water climbed up to the other side wetly, they looked up suddenly. Oh my God, there were more than a dozen pairs of green wolf eyes on the shore staring at them. Before they could turn around and jump into the pool, they were bitten on their tails or calves by the dozen wild wolves who were already on high alert. After a series of howls that were more miserable than wolves, these lemurs who slipped through the net entered the stomachs of the wild wolves that also slipped through the net. Those who were injured and frightened naturally became Susan's captives, totaling about 100 monkeys, and were guarded by the spearmen in Susan's army. There were dozens of seriously injured enemy monkeys, and it was difficult to save them, so Susan was about to give up, but these seriously injured enemy monkeys begged Susan to kill them immediately to avoid unbearable pain, and Susan had to agree to their request. In addition, Susan also killed about 168 enemy soldiers in this operation. If these 100 captives could be transformed into his subordinates, the size of Susan's army would reach 400 soldier monkeys. These enemy prisoners who were reluctant when they were first captured, saw that Susan was very caring and considerate to his subordinates, and after tasting the better-tasting salted barbecue, they willingly stayed to work for Susan. A few days later, Yulihiro found that his capable General Halasho and his troops were inexplicably wiped out by a mysterious force. He could not help but be furious, angry and anxious, but he was helpless and could only send many spies to investigate everywhere to see if he could find any valuable clues. Susan knew very well that after this battle, it would be even more difficult to attack the enemy again, so he evacuated the troops to a very secret canyon, rested and trained the troops, made necessary changes to the prisoners, and took out the black gunpowder hidden last time, looking for containers such as gourds, and making more explosives to make up for the consumption caused by the last battle. At dusk that day, suddenly, the sentinel monkey ran to report that more than 1,500 enemy soldier monkeys suddenly appeared 5 miles south of the canyon entrance, and were rushing towards them aggressively. What happened? How could such a secret place be exposed so quickly? It turned out that there was an enemy monkey named Hishuayan among the group of prisoners. He was actually the confidant of the enemy's former field battalion commander Halasho and also served as deputy battalion commander. Because this guy was very cunning and good at changing with the times, he was deeply appreciated and trusted by Halasho. As a result, his position as deputy battalion commander was meaningless, because he listened to the captain Halasho in everything and had no ideas of his own. Moreover, his leadership and affinity were extremely poor. No one felt that he was still the deputy battalion commander and completely ignored him. Unexpectedly, this guy is completely different from everyone else. On the surface, he said that he was willing to accept the reforms sincerely and become a member of the new big family, but secretly he was still thief-like and always wanted to escape to Yulihiro to eat delicious food and drink spicy food. 2 days ago, he slipped out of the mountain stronghold while everyone was not paying attention, and also avoided the sight of the sentinels and patrols, and successfully escaped to Yulihiro's camp. He reported everything he knew to Yulihiro in detail, saying that Susan's troops had invented a very powerful secret weapon that would cause an earth-shattering explosion just by throwing it into the fire, just like a thunderbolt falling from the sky to the ground, which could not only scare monkeys to death, but also blow them to death. Susan's important military secret was leaked to the biggest rival Yulihiro by Zishuayan, which must be said to be a huge loss. Fortunately, Zishuayan had not yet discovered the normal use of the black gunpowder invented by Susan, that is, the method of igniting the fuse with a flint, which gave Susan a chance to make up for the loss. After listening to the report from Thief Rat Eyes, Nightfire couldn't help but take a breath of cold air and muttered to himself, "Good fellow, I haven't seen you for a few days, and you have come up with such a powerful killer. What kind of monster are you? Why do you always surprise me? It seems that you are really the biggest and most dangerous opponent I have ever met in my life." I must not underestimate you." Afterwards, he inquired in detail about the exact location where Su San's troops were stationed, calculated the time to set off, and asked the Frat Eyes to lead the way. Early the next morning, they set out in full force and estimated that they would reach their destination before 3 p.m., and must annihilate Su San's most bizarre team. Although Su San's monitoring of internal members was insufficient, he was still very careful in observing the external enemy situation. He arranged light and dark sentries and mobile sentries on the high ground around this canyon. Therefore, even if the large group of people of Nightfire moved secretly, once they approached the Grand Canyon within 5 or 6 miles, they would be discovered by Su San's dark sentries or mobile sentries, which would completely ruin the sneak attack plan of Nightfire. Hearing that the enemy's troops were approaching, Su San remained calm and said to the capable generals around him with a smile, "You are here, act according to the original plan immediately." What was Su San's original plan? It turned out that the reason why Su San chose this Grand Canyon as the foothold of the troops was related to a combat plan in his mind to lure the enemy deep into the depths, that is, this was the tomb where the enemy would be buried in the future. Why do you say that? Because he found that this canyon has a very hidden secret. Now the enemy is trying to suddenly break in from the south end of the canyon mouth, but Su San found that there is a very hidden passage on the east side of the mountain wall in the middle of the canyon, which goes straight up to the top of the east mountain wall. When the enemy suddenly attacks, they can quickly move to the top of the east mountain wall, turn passive interactive, and attack the enemy in the canyon from a high position. This is the biggest secret of why Su San chose this canyon. And this biggest secret, not to mention Nightfire and Thief Rat Eyes don't know, even many small and medium leaders in Su San's team don't know, only Su San and a few capable people around him know, otherwise, Su San would not and dare not implement this battle plan. Chapter 529, Not Destined to Die. In the eyes of Yi Liho, as long as there is no fire around him, he is not afraid of any thunder and fire. When he heard that Su San's troops were hiding in this canyon, he thought it was a God-given opportunity to wipe out Su San's troops. He originally expected to reach the Grand Canyon at 3 p.m., but unexpectedly, Zhe Shuai suddenly got lost halfway. Maybe he rarely went out to explore the road before and had no experience. In addition, his ability to recognize the road was not very strong. When he encountered a place with similar terrain and landforms, it was easy to get confused. This made Yi Liho's sneak attack army take a lot of wrong roads, which made Yi Liho very angry. Fortunately, a lemur from a small tribe who was familiar with the local terrain came out of his team and corrected Zhe Shuai's mistake in time. This is how Yi Liho's army arrived at the Grand Canyon before dark. However, when Yi Liho personally led the lemur army to the Grand Canyon, he did not see a single monkey hair at all. Of course, the monkey hair on himself and his own people was not counted. This made Yi Liho very angry. He thought that Zhe Shuyan had lied about military intelligence, collaborated with foreign countries, became a traitor and had ulterior motives, so he immediately slapped Zhe Shuyan in the face so hard that stars appeared in his eyes and he could not tell the directions. Finally, he simply closed his eyes and pretended to faint, and fell to the ground. Just when the two monkeys, Yi Liho and Zhe Shuyan, were playing around in the canyon, another group of monkeys climbed to the top of the eastern mountain wall, at least 180 meters away from the valley bottom. Led by Su San, they began to light the fuse of black powder. After Su San shouted 1, 2, 3, throw, they threw the explosives in their hands into the enemy group in the canyon. Then, there were a series of boom explosions, one after another, which blew the lemur army of Yi Liho upside down, with the ghosts howling and flesh flying everywhere. It was a horrible sight. After 3 rounds of throwing black powder, there was basically no other movement in the canyon except the painful wails. Could it be that this battle was over so soon? But at this time, night had fallen, and the canyon was pitch black, and nothing could be seen. Su San had no choice but to order the spear commandos to go down and see which enemy monkeys were still alive, so that they could kill them with spears. In particular, they had to find the enemy leader Yi Liho. After a detailed description of the captured enemy monkeys in the last battle, Su San and his team basically understood the appearance of Yi Liho. So as long as they found a monkey that was very different from the others, it would be Yi Liho. However, Su San's spear commandos searched for a long time and did not find a monkey with distinctive features. Could it be that Yi Liho had escaped? So, where did Yi Liho go? It turned out that when Susan's lemur commando team, standing on the top of the eastern cliff, used flint to make fire, there was some noise, which was heard by Nightfire, who was staying in the canyon. He immediately looked up at the top of the eastern cliff and found that a line of fire, ignited by dry branches, appeared on the top of the cliff. He felt something was wrong. Although he didn't know whether explosives would be thrown down, at least a lot of flammable materials would be thrown down to set fire to himself and his lemur army. Even so, he couldn't bear it. He would suffer heavy losses or even annihilation. This was certain. Thinking of this, Yilihiro trembled all over and broke out in a cold sweat. It was too late to order the whole army to retreat, because this Grand Canyon was long and narrow, winding, and at this moment, 1,500 monkeys were crowded in this long canyon like a long snake formation. It would take at least 3 or 4 minutes to pass down the order of everyone turn back and run back by word of mouth, and it would take several times more time to execute this order. So, would the enemy on the top of the mountain wall give you so much time? Obviously, this was impossible. In fact, it took less than a minute from Susan's order to start the fire to throwing the first batch of explosives, and it took at most a few minutes for the black powder to fall to the ground and explode, but for the enemy in the canyon, this was almost a blink of an eye. Of course, Yilihiro knew that he was powerful, so he was too lazy to order the army to retreat, and only cared about escaping for his own life. As the saying goes, if you keep the Green Mountains, you will never worry about having no firewood to burn. It doesn't matter if the monkeys here are gone, as long as I am alive, I can go to other places to play with monkeys. So, when he saw a line of fire on the top of the cliff in the east, he knew that he had been tricked. He was so angry that he wanted to cut Shuyan into pieces, but he immediately changed his mind and thought that now was not the time to vent his anger. It was more important to save his life. So, in the time of about half a minute from when he discovered the fire to when the explosives fell to the ground and exploded, he desperately squeezed towards the cliff, while the lemurs beside him were confused. They didn't know what their leader meant by doing this, so they had to retreat and let him do whatever he wanted. Unexpectedly, Yilihiro squeezed to the foot of the mountain wall, stood with his back against the edge of the cliff, and kept looking left and right. At this time, the explosives of Susan's lemur commando were thrown down, and then there were continuous explosions, causing Yilihiro's lemur army to fall down one after another, which made Yilihiro sad and regretful, but also made him feel a little fortunate. He felt sad that the lemur army he had worked so hard to build was over tonight, and he regretted that he should not have believed the words of Zishuan and his eagerness for revenge, and he was fortunate that he escaped this disaster thanks to his wise and decisive decision. However, what made him even more fortunate was that, with the help of the fire from the explosion, he was surprised to find that the mountain wall 2 or 3 meters to his left was overgrown with weeds and dark, which seemed to be a very hidden cave entrance. He was very experienced in this regard, so he immediately moved over with his back against the mountain wall, squatted down, pulled away the weeds, and went in. My goodness, it was indeed a cave. I don't know whether this cave was formed naturally or dug by some animal. Who cares, as long as he can escape from this place, it's fine. Thinking of this, Yilihiro didn't care so much. After all, he was running for his life now, and nothing else mattered. At this moment, he just kept drilling in. At first, he crawled, and felt that the air inside was getting smoother and smoother. It was estimated that the space in the cave was getting bigger and bigger, so he stood up and walked in. Sure enough, this worked. The further he went, the more he felt like he was going up, and there seemed to be steps, so he followed the steps and climbed up. In this way, he followed the cave, turning left and right, up and down, more up and down. After about an hour, he came to the top of another mountain that was 1 mountain away from the Grand Canyon. At this time, Yilihiro stood on the top of the mountain and couldn't help feeling sincerely fortunate that he finally escaped. It was really not his fate, and it was a cause for celebration. However, thinking carefully, he was really a little scared. If there was no cave, he would not be killed by the explosion, but would be captured. The end of that could be imagined. Chapter 530 Ambitious. Unlike Yilihiro, who was glad that he was not doomed, Susan was upset. He ordered his men to search the canyon all night but could not find any trace of Yilihiro. After dawn, he searched again and found the cave where Yilihiro escaped. He walked along the cave to another cave in the mountain and found traces of weeds crushed by animals. He finally realized that Yilihiro escaped from this cave. Although the enemy's main force was destroyed this time, and he could temporarily dominate the area within 100 miles, he did not capture the enemy's leader, which left a big hidden danger. The victory of this battle was greatly reduced and even seemed to have no great significance. However, after this battle, Su San destroyed almost all of Yilahoo's troops, leaving him with a lone commander. In a short period of time, Yilahoo could not turn over. Therefore, what Su San needed to consider next was how to enhance the combat effectiveness of his team. To put it bluntly, he had to improve his weapons and make them more powerful. So, is it necessary to further develop guns and cannons? Obviously, this idea is too unrealistic, because lemurs have low IQs, especially they have almost no basic science and popular science knowledge. It is impossible for Su San to do it in a short time. This requires finding a lot of minerals and doing many experiments. Not to mention anything else, the quality of the ironware alone is very rough and has not yet reached the requirements of steel. Therefore, the most urgent thing is that Su San does not need to consider other things. As long as the steel is well made, it will be very good. After this idea was determined, he focused on studying how to make good steel and forge a sharp sword. This is also what he is most looking forward to in the near future. On the contrary, the fish that escaped the net Yilahoo had been climbing over mountains and wading through water for 2 days and 2 nights, running and crawling for an unknown distance, until he was exhausted, his eyes went black, and he fell to the ground. When Yilahoo woke up and opened his eyes, he found himself lying in a dim cave with thick hay under him. A young and beautiful female ape with long brown hair all over her body was looking at him with gentle and loving eyes. When she saw him wake up, she said, "You finally woke up. Hey, I am relieved at last." Yilahoo felt a little surprised and asked, "Where am I?" "Did you save me?" The female ape replied calmly, "This is the cave where I live. When I went out to collect herbs, I found you fainted on the ground, so I carried you to my cave. I didn't expect that you would be unconscious here for 2 days and 2 nights, and just wake up now." Yilahoo was very moved and said, "Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for saving my life. What's your name?" The female monkey was a little embarrassed and said, "You're welcome. This is what I should do. My name is Mao Mei." "What's your name?" Yilahoo said half seriously and half jokingly. "My name is Yilahoo, Mao Mei. I can't repay you for saving my life, otherwise, I will marry you. What do you think?" When the female monkey heard this, she couldn't help but be surprised and happy. She lowered her head shyly and said softly, "You are so annoying. I won't pay attention to you." As soon as the voice fell, she turned around and ran out of the cave. When she ran to the cave entrance, she turned around and asked, "Yilahoo, what do you want to eat?" "I'll get it for you," Yilahoo said with a lingering desire. "Whatever, Mao Mei, I like to eat anything you get." Just like that, Yilahoo actually stayed in the cave of the female monkey Mao Mei and refused to leave. He also had a romantic time with her under the moonlight. At this time, Su San personally went down to instruct his lemur blacksmiths to forge sharp weapons, scimitars and long swords day and night. At the same time, he sent lemurs to many places within a radius of 100 miles to explore, collect and dig iron ore. Because Su San had the basic knowledge of fine steel forging in his mind, after more than a month of exploration and hard refining, he finally forged a long sword that made Su San quite satisfied as his own sword. In addition, he also killed a big crocodile with this sharp long sword, and made the scabbard, strap and belt of the long sword with a crocodile skin on the crocodile's back. Next, it was to make scimitars for the soldiers. He knew that many soldiers in ancient times liked to use scimitars, especially ancient cavalry. Scimitars were faster and lighter than ordinary broadswords, and they also conformed to the principles of mechanics. With these sharp weapons, the combat effectiveness of Su San's lemur commando team was greatly improved, which gradually expanded his ambitions, and he actually planned to unify the animal world within a radius of thousands of miles. First, he had to unify the mammals that lived in the trees, including lemurs, capuchins, golden monkeys, black-leaf monkeys, mandrills, apes, chimpanzees, gorillas, and gorillas. This was a seemingly grand project. The first step of this project was to unify as many lemurs as possible. However, if other apes or gorillas got in the way, he would not rule out attacking other tribes. In short, Su San was very confident and strong now, and because he had absolute power in the animal world, he could walk sideways in the forest except for a few beasts such as elephants and lions. Now, when other lemur tribes saw the arrival of Su San's lemur army, They either ran away or raised their hands to surrender, and no one tried to resist. This made Su-san feel very happy and heroic, and also boosted the morale of the whole army. Nowadays, Su-san's team is growing. All day long, they are busy accepting new surrendered tribes and endless streams of lemurs from all directions. They also have to train batches of new soldiers, forge batches of swords and spears, and make more black powder bombs. No mistakes. The current Su-san commando has grown from more than 100 monkey soldiers at the lowest point to 1,900 monkey soldiers now. It can be said that they are strong in men and horses and have strong military strength. They can despise all kinds of princes. Now even if they encounter lions, crocodiles and elephants, they are not afraid. After basically recruiting almost all the lemur tribes in the hundreds and thousands of miles, Su-san then turned his attention to the monkey tribes of other tribes. The first one to be dealt with was a Capuchin monkey tribe, about 300 kilometers away from his base camp. This tribe had 700 to 800 monkeys and occupied a large and steep mountain. It was easy to defend but difficult to attack. Relying on this precious land, they did not take Su-san's army seriously at all. Because this mountain is as high as 1,850 meters above sea level and surrounded by smooth stone walls like mirrors. Even lemurs who are good at climbing are powerless. There is only one way to the mountain, and they only need to send a few dozen monkeys to guard the important pass. Even if you have tens of thousands of monkeys to attack, you can't get through. It's really one man guarding the pass, 10,000 men can't open it. Chapter 531, Overcoming Dangers. Su-san personally led the team to the foot of the steep mountain to conduct the reconnaissance. No matter from the front or the side of the mountain, there was no opportunity to take advantage of. So he went around the back of the mountain to check and found that there was a mountain spring flowing down from the mountain, forming a waterfall, which was very spectacular. On both sides of the waterfall were dense forests, and the waterfall was rushing down from a cliff of 70 to 80 meters. In other words, from the foot of the mountain to the forest on both sides of the waterfall, there were bare cliffs for about 70 to 80 meters, with almost no place to climb. In general, the two sides of the waterfall were the most suitable places for climbing on this mountain, but even so, there were at least 70 to 80 meters of cliffs that were difficult to cross. How to cross this difficult distance of 70 to 80 meters became Su-san's most troublesome problem at the moment. Afterwards, Su-san personally ran to both sides of the waterfall at the foot of the mountain and went to take a careful look, never letting go of any clues. Suddenly, he found that there seemed to be a crack or stone steps on the cliff about 60 to 70 meters away from the waterfall, nearly 30 meters above the ground. However, there were no cracks in the woods up to the waterfall. Obviously, finding only this crack was not enough, so he continued to look for it. Finally, about 250 meters away from the waterfall on the right side of the waterfall, he found 3 cracks on the same vertical line, one about 25 meters above the ground, one about 50 meters above the ground, and one about 70 meters above the ground. Seeing this, Su-san couldn't help but be overjoyed. Finally, there was a chance. He ordered his blacksmiths to make 7 or 8 iron hooks immediately, and then asked those clever lemurs to make several carat-thick ropes about 30 meters long and a rope of the same thickness of 70 to 80 meters long with strong long grass or vines. In addition, make 2 bamboo poles at least 25 meters long. If there is no natural bamboo pole of this length, then find a way to connect them one by one. After everything was ready, on a bright moonlit night, Su-san personally led hundreds of spear monkeys and archer monkeys, carrying black gunpowder and specially prepared items, to the waterfall at the foot of the mountain. First, he ordered his men to connect the bare bamboo poles that had been trimmed of branches and leaves one by one, until they were at least 25 meters long. Then he asked them to connect the 30-meter-long rope to the iron hook, and then put the iron hook on the top of the 25-meter-long bamboo pole. Finally, he called a few lemurs with great strength and ordered them to lift the 25-meter-long bamboo pole and hook the iron hook to the crack 25 meters above the ground. Then he took down the bamboo pole and leaned it against the cliff. Then he ordered a monkey with the strongest hand to climb up along the rope dropped by the first iron hook. Unexpectedly, halfway up, this monkey suddenly fell down. Fortunately, he was quick to grab the bamboo pole leaning against the cliff on the way down and was not injured. The 30-meter-long rope also fell down. It turned out that the rope was not tied tightly. The second time, he tied the 30-meter-long rope tightly to another iron hook, and then used the long bamboo pole to support the iron hook and gently hooked the crack. Then he asked the monkey soldier to climb up again with 2, 3, 4 meter long ropes. This time he finally did not fall. Then he used the 2 ropes, one rope and the 30-meter long rope to tie around his waist, and the other rope was tied to the long bamboo pole in his waist. Next, Su-san ordered his men to tie another 25-meter long bamboo pole with an iron hook and a 30-meter long rope, and gave it to the monkey soldier who was already hanging in the air, asking him to use the iron hook with a long rope on the second long bamboo pole to hook the horizontal crack or stone steps on the cliff 50 meters above the ground. After the iron hook on the second long bamboo pole was hooked, the soldier monkey loosened the 2 short ropes on his waist, climbed along the hanging rope to the second stone step, and tied himself to the long rope with a short rope. At this time, Su-san asked the second soldier monkey to replace his original position, and handed the iron hook with a long rope on the first long bamboo pole to the second soldier monkey, who then passed it to the first soldier monkey. In this way, the first soldier monkey began to march towards the third crack or stone step, 70 meters above the ground. After completing it, he finally used the long bamboo pole to hook the iron hook with a long rope to the branch of the trunk of a relatively large tree 70 to 80 meters above the ground on the right side of the waterfall, and then climbed up the tree along the rope, and asked the soldier monkey behind him to use the baton method to pass the 80-meter long rope to him with a long bamboo pole. He then tied the longest rope to the thickest and strongest part of the tree. Then, Su-san's lemur commando team could climb along the longest rope to the woods on the mountain beside the waterfall in one breath, thus successfully crossing the most difficult part of the mountain. However, since the longest rope was not a modern nylon rope, Su-san was afraid that it was not strong enough, so he asked only 5 lemurs to climb at a time. Since Su-san's lemur commando team had 500 or 600 soldiers, it took nearly 10 hours for everyone to climb to the woods beside the waterfall, and it was almost dawn. When they crossed a mountain from the back mountain and climbed to the front mountain, it was almost dark again, so Su-san ordered everyone to camp and rest on the spot, and then attack the enemy after dawn. At dawn, Su-san got up first and woke everyone up immediately. After the emergency assembly, he did not even have time to eat breakfast and wanted to attack the enemy who was still sleeping. Their fighting method was very modern, that is, they used dry branches ignited by flint, and then ignited the fuse of black powder, and threw the black powder as a grenade into the caves or under the big trees where the enemy lived. As the rumbling explosions rang out one after another, the enemy was howling like ghosts and wolves. The few enemy soldiers who escaped from the cave were scared to death in front of the shining spears and steel knives, and hurriedly knelt down and begged for mercy. The enemy soldiers who stayed under the trees on guard were either killed or surrendered. Su-san's troops won a great victory and successfully captured this seemingly extremely difficult-to-break mountain. The victory of Su-san's lemur army soon spread like wildfire, spreading to the surrounding villages and towns. Various apes and monkeys from hundreds of miles away either fled far away or came to join them, forming 2 completely opposite situations. Very few people remained indifferent. In less than a month, Su-san's team had nearly doubled, reaching 3,000 to 4,000 apes of various types. He now classified their respective tribes and asked them to manage themselves for the time being. Su-san himself had a lot of things to do. Just when he was full of confidence and ready to do a big job, he suddenly received an order from the Soul Transplantation Experiment scientific research team on the alien planet, asking him to rush to a place hundreds of kilometers away to wait, without any mistakes. Su-san was puzzled by this very strange order. After all, this kind of thing had never happened before. He vaguely felt that there must be an extremely important task for him to complete. What kind of task would it be? Chapter 532, Insight Learning. Now let's go back to the panda Shisu. Shisu scared away 2 giant monkey-faced spiders and saved a small prairie ground sloth. The small prairie ground sloth was very grateful to Shisu for saving his life. Shisu smiled and said, "Don't say thank you. I just want to be friends with you. Do you want to?" When the prairie ground sloth heard that Shisu's request was so low, he hurriedly agreed happily. "Yes, how can I not want to?" Shisu Panda continued, "My name is Shisu, what's your name?" The prairie ground sloth happily replied, "My name is Todder-dee." At this moment, Shisu and Todder-dee's stomachs growled at the same time. They looked at each other and felt a little embarrassed. Seeing this, Zisu said, "It seems that we are both hungry. Let's go find something to eat." "What do you want to eat?" The prairie ground sloth Toddy said, "I like to eat big bats, big ground rats, pythons and other things that live in dark corners and caves. However, when I grow up, I may also eat cattle, sheep, deer, roe deer and other land animals like my mother, especially in the evening and rainy days." When Zissou heard this, he felt uncomfortable and suddenly realized, since I met the ice and snow monster, ate many ice sculptures and snow wolves, and practiced this powerful martial arts, I have become a carnivore. From now on, I will attack those lively animals. Am I going to change from an animal doctor who saves lives to a demon who slaughters and eats animals? Am I beginning to degenerate and become bad? Thinking of this, Zissou Panda felt very entangled. Hey, what should I do? How about I stay with the prairie ground sloth Toddy for a while, and eat whatever he eats, and eat these guys who can't see the sun and like to live underground first. As for the future, let's talk about it later. With the idea made up, he didn't think about it anymore, and followed the prairie ground sloth Toddy in this winding hole, turning left and right, up and down, and finally got out of the hole, but found that it was already dark. Not long after, he found a lot of ground squirrels on the ground from time to time. Some came out to look for food alone, and some came in groups of 3 or 5. Although the prairie ground sloth Toddy is huge, it is very flexible. It quickly caught the ground squirrel he had set his eyes on, and almost none of them could escape from his clutches. After catching it, he didn't pluck the hair or skin, but threw it directly into his mouth, and gobbled it up in a few seconds, which shocked Zissou. On the other hand, the panda Shih Tzu seemed clumsy and could not catch a hamster for a long time. After finally catching one, he did not know how to eat it. He let the hamster run away when he was not paying attention. He could not help but smile bitterly. The well-fed Toddy began to teach Shih Tzu step by step, telling him that he must be quick-eyed and quick-handed when catching hamsters, and that he must accurately judge the direction in which the hamster is running. After accurately judging, he must make a little advance and intercept it a little ahead of the direction in which the hamster runs when it starts running. It turns out that catching hamsters still requires some skills. In fact, there is another point that Toddy did not mention, that is, to deceive the hamster with the tactic of startling the snake by beating the grass. In other words, you make a false move first. Let the hamster think that you will intercept it to its east, and when it suddenly turns to the west, you just intercept it to its west. This move is also called making a feint to the east and attacking the west. It took Zissou almost half an hour to completely master the skill of catching mice. After that, it took another hour or so to catch more than 10 big ground rats before he was barely full. In this way, he followed Toddy out of the cave almost every night to catch big ground rats to eat, and hid in the cave to sleep during the day. Because they slept too much that day, when they climbed out of the cave, it was almost dawn. At this time, the big ground rats had returned to the cave to hide and sleep. They couldn't catch the big ground rats, so they had to catch other animals. The animals that Toddy liked to eat were big bats and pythons, but pythons were animals that were hard to come by, so the only ones left were big bats. Fortunately, Toddy knew several caves where big bats liked to live. At this time, after dawn, it was the time for big bats to sleep in the caves, so Toddy took Zissou to the nearest cave with big bats. They crossed a big forest and came to a big canyon 2 hours later. After walking for more than half an hour, they came to the most gloomy place in the canyon. Sure enough, they found a cave. After entering the cave, they found that there were many big bats as big as footballs or even basketballs hanging upside down on the top of the cave, which surprised Zissou. Because Toddy and Zissou came in quietly and did not light a fire, they did not wake up the sleeping bats. Toddy quickly picked up a bat hanging upside down on the top of the cave, stuffed it into his mouth, and bit off the bat's head, killing the bat before it could make any sound. In this way, Toddy ate 7 or 8 big bats in a row without waking up the other bats that were still sleeping. Could it be that these big bats were sleeping so soundly? Obviously not, but Toddy's skill in catching bats was really amazing, which made Zissou dumbfounded. Zissou also imitated Toddy and plucked a sleeping big bat from his head. Just as he was about to put it into his mouth, he didn't expect that the bat was awakened. It screamed hoarsely, squeaky, and immediately awakened the bats around. At least dozens of bats flapped their wings and flew away. Some of them were still screaming while flying, awakening more bats to fly out of the cave. No mistakes in one poem, one post, one content, one book, one forum, 1 6, 1 9, one book, one forum, one look, Seeing this, Zissou couldn't help but smile helplessly and shook his head at Todordi. Then, Todordi, who was good at teaching, began to explain to Zissou the key to catching big bats. First of all, when catching, you must quickly pinch the bat's neck with your fingers to prevent a bat from breathing, let alone making a sound. This first step is the most critical. Otherwise, if it makes a sound, it will scare away other bats, which means that the action of hunting bats has failed. Unless you only want to catch one bat, the second step is to bite off the bat's head and gently tear and chew the bat meat to avoid making a loud noise and waking up other bats. After letting Zissou remember the unique skill of hunting bats, Todordi took Zissou and continued to tiptoe into the cave. This time, Todordi first demonstrated a movement so that Zissou could watch carefully. Moreover, this time he did the movement much slower than before, but he still caught it easily without any mistakes. It was really practice makes perfect. Zissou also followed suit and tried it out, and sure enough, no noise was made. Moreover, the scene of eating the bat in silence felt fresh and exciting to him. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 533, Catching the Giant Python. Then, Zissou repeated the same process 3 or 4 times, without any mistakes, and without waking up other bats, which made him feel complacent. However, just when he was about to catch another bat to eat, he suddenly felt a mosquito crawling into his nose, which made him itch unbearably, and he couldn't help but sneeze loudly. With a loud bang, all the sleeping bats in the cave were awakened. Countless bats flapped their wings, passing over Zissou and Todordi's heads and sides, and flew out of the cave to find other places to live. Of course, under normal circumstances, Zissou and Todordi would not oversleep, so it was rare for them to look for and prey on big bats. In most cases, they would catch big ground rats to eat at night. That night, around the second watch, Zissou and his friends slipped out of the cave again, intending to have another delicious rat meat dinner as usual. Unexpectedly, they did not see any ground rats, but unexpectedly found a python, which was staring at Zissou and his friends with its green eyes. Zissou's experience of dealing with pythons dates back to a long time ago when he just started working as a panda doctor, so he instinctively had some fear of pythons. Unexpectedly, when the grassland ground sloth Todordi saw the python, his eyes only shone with gold, as if he had found a great treasure, and without saying a word, he pounced on the python. In the blink of an eye, Todordi was entangled with the giant python. Todordi was quick-eyed and quick-handed, and quickly pinched the giant python's vital point with both hands, trying to subdue it. Unexpectedly, the python saw through his attempt, dodged, and turned around to attack Todordi, and quickly entangled Todordi with its powerful snake body as thick as a bucket. Todordi also took the opportunity to pinch the giant python's vital point with both hands. Both sides exerted force together, and they were deadlocked, so they rolled on the ground, rolling back and forth. After a while, the giant python gradually lost its strength, and finally collapsed. Todordi still pinched the giant snake's vital point for half a minute. Seeing that the other party had no reaction, he knew it was dead, so he let go of his hands and extricated himself from the giant python's entanglement. At this time, Todordi was already sweating profusely, exhausted, and weak all over. He slumped down on the ground, his head tilted and he fell to the ground, fainting. Seeing this, Zissou couldn't help but admire his bravery, and was a little worried about his current health, so he wanted to go forward, wake him up and help him up. Suddenly, he looked up and was surprised to find that not far behind Todordi, 2 larger giant pythons appeared. The 2 pairs of green eyes looked at Zissou and the others, full of extreme resentment and anger, as if they would not stop until they devoured both Zissou and Todordi. Seeing this, Zissou suddenly felt cold all over his body, and he kept muttering in his heart, "Oh no, the giant python family, the whole family is out, is it to avenge their relatives? What should I do? If I don't care about Todordi, I can escape alone, no problem. But if I do this, Todordi will definitely be finished. But this is not my principle. How can I only care about my own life and leave my friends in danger?" Then, I changed my mind and thought, don't I have powerful martial arts? It's just that I haven't practiced it for a long time. Tonight, I will use you 2 unlucky guys to test it. He. If you are not afraid of death, just come up. As if responding to Zisu's spiritual call, the two giant pythons actually surrounded Zisu's position from the left and right. The meaning seemed to be saying, we know that you two monsters are very powerful. Although the one just now has lost its fighting power, we still dare not underestimate you. We want two of us to come up together to deal with you alone. This should be a sure win, right? When Zisu saw that the opponent was actually going all out and trying to attack him from both sides, he felt heroic and eager to fight. He clenched his fists, gradually gathered all his strength in his fists, and quietly waited for the opponent's attack. While thinking, the two giant pythons attacked from both sides of Zisu almost at the same time. The one on the left pounced on Zisu's head and neck, intending to wrap around his neck, while the one on the right pounced on Zisu's waist, aiming to make him unable to move and lose his resistance. Obviously, the moves made by the two giant pythons were very vicious, and the one on the left that pounced on Zisu's head was the most insidious and deadly. How could he let the giant pythons succeed in their plot? Just before the two giant pythons pounced on Zisu, Zisu used all his strength to punch left and right at the same time. With a loud boom, the two punches that Zisu threw hit the lips of the two ignorant fools, instantly smashing the mouths of the two giant pythons and causing them to suffer a severe concussion, fainting on the spot. Zisu was still worried that the two giant pythons were not dead, so he punched each of them on the head, smashing them into meat patties, and finishing them off completely. Afterwards, Zisu went to wake up Todderdy, who was fainted on the ground, and told him about the thrilling incident just now, which made Todderdy break out in a cold sweat and couldn't believe it was true. When he carefully looked at the two giant pythons whose heads had been crushed by Zisu, he believed that it was true. Next, it was to enjoy this gourmet meal of pythons. The grassland giant sloth Todderdy skillfully tore the skin, bones and meat of the python that he strangled to death, and tore off a large piece of snake meat and threw it to Zisu, asking Zisu to taste it too. Seeing that Todderdy was eating with relish, Zisu couldn't help but be tempted, and also took a large piece of snake meat thrown by Todderdy and ate it heartily. He felt that the meat on the giant python was really delicious and tasted great. After they ate the giant python, they felt that their stomachs were full, but what about the other two giant pythons? They couldn't just leave them in the wild and let other animals who got something for nothing sit back and enjoy it, right? Finally, they both agreed to drag the two python bodies into the cave and save them for the next day or the day after tomorrow. The temperature in the cave is lower, so it shouldn't be a problem to keep them for 2 days. So, Zisu and Todderdy each dragged the python into the cave where the prairie ground sloths lived and stored them in the most secret place for the next 2 meals. The next day, when they were preparing to share a python, suddenly, a huge prairie ground sloth broke in. When Todderdy saw it, he immediately shouted happily, "Mommy, come and eat the python with us. We killed it last night." No mistakes in one poem, one post, one content, 1 6, 1 9, one book, one bar, one look. Unexpectedly, the female ground sloth ignored Todderdy and stared at Zisu with her round eyes and asked, "Who are you? Why are you with my son? Do you have any bad intentions? Tell me quickly, otherwise, I will make sure you are dead without a burial place." Seeing this, Todderdy immediately said to his mother unhappily, "Mommy, what are you talking about? He is my lifesaver, his name is Zisu, and he saved my life twice. If it weren't for him, I would have died twice." Chapter 534, Battle Against Wolves. Is this true? How is this possible? He looks so weak, the female steppe ground sloth asked in disbelief. Of course it's true, why would I lie to you? So, Todderdy told his mother everything that had happened recently. The female steppe ground sloth still looked at Zisu with doubt and said, "How about you show me your skills, and I'll believe you." Seeing that she was so serious, it seemed that if she didn't show her skills, she really couldn't pass this level, so he punched in the air, using only 30% of his strength, and heard a boom in the cave. The echo lingered for a long time, which shocked the female steppe ground sloth. From then on, she looked at Zisu, the panda, with a new look and never dared to look down on him again. Seeing that his mother and Zisu had made up, Todderdy invited her to eat python. His mother didn't hesitate to eat it. She squatted down and ate it with big mouthfuls, as if she had been hungry for many days. She didn't act like a parent at all. 3 guys with huge appetites were eating together. 1 python was definitely not enough, so they had to drag out another python. who knew that the last python was also eaten up by the three of them very quickly. The python that was originally planned to be eaten for 2 days was eaten up by the three of them in less than a day, leaving only snake skin and bones. In this way, Zisu Panda and grassland ground sloth Todderdy mother and son finally lived together happily. They even gathered together every day when they had nothing to do and talked nonsense. Generally speaking, the mother and son listened to Zisu's nonsense. In fact, most of what Zisu said was true, but it was too bizarre and fantastic. Who would believe it? They just listened to it as a fairy tale. 2 nights later, the three of them were all hungry, having already digested the rich meal of python meat they had the night before. So, they crawled out of the cave one by one, intending to catch wild mice, ground rats to eat. Unexpectedly, they encountered a group of black wolves. With their green hungry eyes, they looked at the 3 huge creatures that suddenly appeared in front of them, the panda Zisu and the mother and son of the grassland ground sloth Todderdy. As soon as they saw the 3 of them crawling out of the cave, the group of black wolves immediately surrounded them. How could they be so bold as to dare to offend these 3 huge creatures? It turned out that there were as many as 300 or 400 black wolves. Obviously, they thought they had an absolute advantage in numbers and did not take Zisu and the other 3 seriously at all. They thought that this was a generous gift from God out of pity for them. The black wolves surrounded Zisu and the other 2 in 3 layers, making them feel like they were being crushed by a mountain and were in great danger. The mother and son of the grassland ground sloth Todderdy had never seen such a situation before. Facing the densely packed black wolves, they were so scared that their whole body was shaking and their legs were trembling. If they hadn't had a glimmer of hope in their hearts, hoping that Zisu the panda could withstand the pressure and turn the tide, they would have fainted on the ground long ago. What a great gorilla panda. No, actually, he has become a kung fu panda instead of a panda doctor. In the face of danger, he remained calm, vigorous, full of fighting spirit, focused. Keeping an eye on all directions, listening carefully, not panicking, and responding calmly. The group of black wolves that surrounded him felt very strange and incredible. How come the 2 giants, the prairie ground sloths, which were several times larger than him, were so frightened that they trembled all over and could not stand, while this much shorter panda just stood there and watched the show as if nothing had happened? Or was he already scared silly by them and didn't know how to be afraid? In any case, the group of black wolves now felt that they should attack the short panda first, not for anything else, but because they could not understand the strength of the gorilla panda, and they had to solve this time bomb that might be hidden first, and then the rest would be easy to deal with. In fact, Zisu's idea coincided with that of the black wolves. He also wanted the black wolves to attack him first, instead of attacking the mother and son of Todderdy first, so as not to distract himself. He had to protect the mother and son and kill the black wolves at the same time. If that happened, he would not be able to cope with it. Now, the other party came to deal with him first, which was a good thing that Zisu wished for. In this way, he could focus on dealing with the black wolves. While he was thinking, the wolf pack's attack began. Since Zisu was standing on the left side of the mother and son of Todderdy, then the one standing on Zisu's right was his own people and he did not need to defend himself. He only needed to concentrate on dealing with the black wolves from other directions except the right side. The opponent's first attack, it sent out 3 very fierce mane black wolves, which pounced on Zisu from the left, front and back at the same time. In the blink of an eye when there was no way to retreat, Zisu let out a whoosh and jumped directly from the ground, leaping half his height. At the same time, with a lightning-fast whirlwind kick, he kicked the upper jaw of the black wolves that pounced on him from the front and left respectively, and instantly broke the upper jaws of the 2 black wolves. Only 2 screams were heard almost at the same time. At almost the same time, Zisu had turned around, and clamped the head of the black wolf that attacked him from behind with his feet. He spun hard, and suddenly there was a crisp click sound. The black wolf's neck was also twisted by Zisu's feet, which directly ended the black wolf's life, and the 2 black wolves whose upper jaws were kicked by him also fell to the ground and fainted instantly. After seeing the powerful fighting power of Zisu Panda, the black wolves did not dare to act rashly for the time being. Normally, since they already knew how powerful Zisu was, they should retreat in the face of difficulties. Unexpectedly, when Todderdy saw Zisu so bravely, killing 3 aggressive black wolves in an instant, he became bolder, his body stopped shaking, his legs stopped trembling, and he shouted to the wolves, Come on. Keep going. If you have the ability and are not afraid of death, keep biting us." Unexpectedly, his shouting immediately irritated the group of black wolves who had just tasted the bitter fruit of failure and suffered from humiliation. Immediately, 6 fierce black wolves walked out of the wolf pack array, and the 3 in front and the 3 in the back pounced on Todderdy at the same time. Since Todderdy was in the middle of Zissou and the other 3, the black wolves had to adopt this attack method. Seeing this scene, Zissou was immediately furious, and couldn't help but complain to Todderdy, "My little ancestor, aren't you looking for trouble? Originally, I planned to kill the 3 black wolves and repel the first tentative attack of the wolf pack, so that the other party would know how powerful we are and retreat. It would be fine if you didn't cooperate with me, but now you are playing a counteracting against me. Are you stupid, or are you the other party's undercover? Why do you like to make trouble for no reason?" Just when Zissou was getting angry, the wolves had already started to target Todderdy. He had to interrupt his wild thoughts and join the battle to rescue Todderdy with all his strength. Chapter 535, Thrilling. In a flash, the Kung Fu Panda called Shizo Panda quickly pressed down the left shoulder of Todderdy with both hands, and with a Thomas Mann's gymnastics move and a lightning-fast Mandarin duck kick, almost at the same time, kicked the heads of the 2 wolves that pounced from the front continuously, causing them to suffer severe concussion on the spot and fainted immediately. When he kicked the second wolf in the head and kicked it away, he also knocked down the third wolf that pounced from the front. In this instant, he broke the attack of the 3 black wolves in front of him. Before he could take a breath, the other 3 black wolves behind Todderdy had already rushed over. At this time, it was too late for Zissou to turn around. He suddenly did a backflip, like a vaulting horse action in men's world gymnastics, and his feet landed on the heads of the 2 black wolves from the left that attacked from behind. Because Zissou's feet were very powerful and accurate, he immediately kicked the 2 black wolves' heads to pieces and kicked them to death. At the same time, he freed his right hand and punched the last remaining black wolf hard, hitting the wolf's left eye, instantly turning it into a one-eyed wolf and making it scream in pain. In the blink of an eye, Zissou killed and injured another 6 black wolves on the other side, making the group of wolves dare not make any more mistakes. They all looked at Zissou with wide eyes, with puzzled and extremely frightened expressions. Seeing this, Zissou said to the group of black wolves in Wild Wolf Mandarin, "Who is your leader? Please stand up and talk to me. I want to have a good talk with you." At this time, a voice came from the wolf pack in front, "I am their leader. If you have anything to say, just say it." Seeing that the other party finally responded, Zissou couldn't help but secretly relieved, and said calmly, "Well, let me ask you, why do you lead so many of your tribes to encircle and kill 2 prairie sloths that pose no threat to you?" The voice in the wolf pack responded, "Do we need a reason to encircle and kill any animals? Those cattle, sheep, and red deer are not a threat to us, so don't we still hunt and kill them? If you have to give a reason, there is one, that is, they are all our prey and food, just because we are hungry. Now, I have told you the reason why we hunt them. Do you still want to stop us? Do you want us to starve?" Unexpectedly, Zissou said, "I don't care what creatures you kill, but you are not allowed to kill these 2, because they are my best friends, and I have the obligation and responsibility to protect their lives and safety. So, tonight, you are determined to stand up for them and go against us?" the leader of the black wolves asked in disbelief. "Of course, as long as I, Zissou, am still alive, your conspiracy will never succeed," Zissou answered firmly. "Oh, you are still very loyal? Okay, I will kill you first, and then deal with them," the leader of the black wolves said fiercely. "Then don't talk so much nonsense, just come on," Zissou responded nonchalantly. "Okay, then it's as you wish. Guys, rush forward and bite to death. I only want the dead, not the living," the Black Wolf King, the leader of the Black Wolves, ordered angrily. Seeing this group of shameless black wolves trying to use outnumbered and will tactics to consume Zissou's physical strength and make Zissou die of exhaustion, Zissou could not help but be furious. He had no choice but to start using a set of black whirlwind fighting methods that he had recently explored. He rolled into the wolf pack like a black whirlwind and quickly moved towards the location of the Black Wolf King. Those who were hit by Zissou's fists and feet were either dead or injured. The battle was very fierce. Wherever Zissou went, blood and flesh flew everywhere, ghosts cried and wolves howled. The black wolves were killed by him and fell to the ground in all directions. In a blink of an eye, Zissou killed the Black Wolf King. The Black Wolf King was so frightened that he retreated straight back, and at the same time he asked his guards to quickly step forward to block Zisu's attack, and he kept shouting, hold on for me." In fact, because Zisu was fighting on an empty stomach and fighting for such a long time and so intensely, he had consumed a lot of physical strength, which had almost consumed 70% of his physical strength. If he continued to fight like this, he might really die of exhaustion. Therefore, he must now capture the king first and catch the Black Wolf King in one fell swoop, so that he can turn the tide and turn the tide. At this moment, he saw that he was almost approaching the Black Wolf King, but 3 or 4 extremely sturdy bodyguards black wolves rushed forward to escort the Black Wolf King. If Zisu went to deal with these bodyguards black wolves in front of him at this time, the Black Wolf King would definitely take the opportunity to escape, and he would fail, and would soon be besieged by other black wolves, and ultimately could not escape alive. At this critical moment, Zisu performed a swallow front flip and jumped over the bodyguard black wolves with a bang and landed in front of the Black Wolf King. Almost at the same time, he suddenly punched the Black Wolf King on the head, knocking him unconscious. Then, he took a step forward and stepped on the neck of the fallen Black Wolf King, shouting, "Stop, all of you stop. Otherwise, I will step on your leader to death and make you leaderless and then kill each other. Don't think I am scaring you, I always do what I say." The remaining black wolves that had not been knocked to the ground by Zisu, including the bodyguard black wolves who were about to sneak attack him from behind, stopped their actions at the same time after hearing his shouting. They looked at each other, not knowing what to do. If there is a second in command with high strength and prestige in the wolf pack at this time, then Zisu's move is really too bad, which is tantamount to making a wedding dress for others. The second in command would be more than happy with Zisu's behavior. He would take the opportunity to replace the first in command Black Wolf King in order to continue to encircle and suppress Zisu, so that he can kill the Black Wolf King with Zisu's hand and replace him as the new Black Wolf King. However, this situation is generally impossible in the animal world, especially in carnivorous animals such as lions and wolves where competition is extremely fierce. No one wants his throne to be coveted by a powerful second-in-command, or called crown prince, which will be very detrimental to the stability of his position. Therefore, even if these animal kings want to choose or arrange their own successors or crown princes, in general, they will not arrange only one, but most of them will arrange 2 or 3 or more. So that they can compete with each other, be suspicious of each other, and exclude each other, so that they can reap the benefits of being a fisherman. This is also the philosophy and iron law generally followed by human officials. The current Black Wolf King seems to be well versed in this method, and has mastered it to perfection. He has 5 successors who are capable of taking over his position. Although one was kicked to death by Zisu and one was injured by Zisu, there are still 3 successors intact. Everyone is watching each other, and no one can make up their mind. Chapter 536 Final Compromise. Seeing this situation, if Zisu wants to break the current deadlock, she has to rely on herself. Thinking of this, Zisu simply kicked the Black Wolf King, who was almost awake or had already woken up but was pretending to be unconscious. Why did Zisu think that the Black Wolf King was actually awake now but was still pretending not to wake up? This is because Zisu was not wearing shoes. Have you ever seen a panda wearing shoes? His soles were pressed on the neck of the Black Wolf King, and he felt that the Black Wolf King's breathing and pulse suddenly became clear and rhythmic, so he guessed that the Black Wolf King had actually woken up, so he gently kicked him to stop pretending to be unconscious, otherwise, Zisu would kick him hard and make him suffer. Then, still pressing his foot on his neck, he asked, "Hey, tell me, what is your attitude? Do you want to die or live?" At this time, the Black Wolf King was lying on the ground on his side, but was suppressed by Zisu's vitals. He did not dare to move easily, so he had to temporarily suppress his anger and asked indignantly, "What do you mean by this?" Zisu explained slowly, "If you want to live, tell your men to make way and let my 2 companions leave calmly. Otherwise, I will break your neck with 1 foot and send you to see the King of Hell." Seeing that Zisu was like a mountain pressing down on his neck, his life was under his feet. If he dared to say no, he would be finished. The Black Wolf King, who was used to being domineering, had never suffered such humiliation, but now in order to save his life, he had no choice but to compromise. So the Black Wolf King had to lie on the ground and give orders, "Listen to me, all of you, make way for the 2 companions of the panda hero, let them go back, and don't stop them." Those who disobey orders will be killed. Hearing that the Black Wolf King had given such a severe order, the Black Wolves did not dare to disobey the order, and obediently made way for the grassland sloth Todderdy and her son to return to the cave. Unexpectedly, at this moment, Zisu suddenly shouted, "Wait a minute, let them each take a dead wolf. They haven't eaten yet, so just eat a dead wolf each." After saying that, without waiting for the Black Wolf King to agree, he said to the mother and son of Todderdy, "You two each take a dead wolf on the ground, just as today's dinner." The Black Wolves present were furious when they heard this, thinking, "We are all hungry, and we wanted to eat you for today's dinner, but unexpectedly, you killed so many of our guys and took our dead guys for dinner. It really pissed us off. Oh, it's really cowardly. We have never been so cowardly before." The Black Wolf King was almost fainted with anger, but then he thought, "Since I have already promised them, I might as well be more generous. Why be so petty? Anyway, these dead wolves will be eaten anyway. Later, they will either be eaten by the other party or by my hungry wolves. They are all eaten, so who eats them is different." After thinking through all this, the Black Wolf King suddenly calmed down, remained silent, and even pretended to doze off. After Zisu and the Todderdy mother and son dragged the two dead wolves into the cave of the ground sloth on the grassland, they took advantage of the fact that the Black Wolves were not paying much attention and began their own escape plan. At this time, without the order of the Black Wolf King, the group of Black Wolves did not dare to act rashly. Zisu suddenly released the foot that was pressing down on the Black Wolf King, and did a dozen front flips in succession, flipped under a big tree, and quickly climbed up the tree with a swoosh. Because he was so hungry now and urgently needed to replenish energy to maintain his life and combat effectiveness, he climbed to the middle and high branches of the tree, sat on the branches, picked the leaves around him, stuffed them into his mouth, chewed loudly, and even devoured them. The Black Wolves were stunned by Zisu's swift movements, and looked at each other in bewilderment. Their leader, the Black Wolf King, felt the pressure on his neck suddenly disappear. Then, he heard a series of dong 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 sounds from near to far as Zisu somersaulted away. He heaved a sigh of relief. He had already learned Zisu's powerful skills, so he dared not order a pursuit of Zisu. He just slowly opened his eyes pretending to sleep, raised his head, glanced around, and asked casually, "Is he really gone?" "Yes, but he hasn't gone far. He has climbed up the big tree and is now eating leaves desperately," one of the successors of the Black Wolf King answered. At this time, the Black Wolf King was lying on the ground, not in a hurry to get up, but thinking, "What kind of monster is this guy?" He kept saying that the two prairie sloths were his companions, but he did not return to the cave to continue to accompany them. Instead, he hid in the tree and ate leaves, and did not eat our fellows who were killed by him. What does this mean? For a moment, the Black Wolf King was confused by the strange behavior of Zisu Panda. He didn't know whether Zisu had good intentions or had other intentions. In fact, the Black Wolf King completely misunderstood Zisu's thoughts. Zisu did this for a reason. He no longer wanted to go back to the cave and live with the abandoned Todderdy mother and son, because he felt like a third party disturbing the lives of the mother and son, although the Todderdy mother and son might not think so. Therefore, he planned to stay, and the safest place to stay was naturally the tree. Now he was very hungry and had to temporarily fill his stomach with leaves. Anyway, he had eaten leaves occasionally before. Of course, if all the wolves had left and the scene wasn't so bloody, he might have eaten one or two dead wolves on the ground, but now the wolves were still there, and he didn't want to and couldn't bear to eat their dead companions in front of the Black Wolves, mainly because he was afraid of causing the Black Wolves to attack him without regard for the consequences. If that happened, his life would be in jeopardy. After all, at this moment, he only had 1 or 2 layers of energy left in his body. This is why Zisu looked so strange. Of course, the Black Wolf King didn't know these reasons at all, and perhaps didn't want to know. Now he was thinking about another thing, which was to make Zisu the patron saint of his tribe. Why did he have such a strange idea? Obviously, the Black Wolf King and all the Black Wolves under him were intimidated by Zisu's extremely superb panda kung fu. They were so impressed that they completely regarded him as the god of war in the animal world. Having made up his mind, the Black Wolf King stood up energetically and shouted at his subordinates who were looking at him, "Why are you still standing there? Go over quickly and kneel down to worship our martial god." The Black Wolf subordinates around him asked in confusion, "My lord, who is our martial god?" When the Black Wolf King heard this, He rolled his eyes in anger and cursed, "You are so blind, it must be the one who is eating leaves desperately on the tree now." Chapter 537, Begging the God of War. Just like that, under the order and urging of the Black Wolf King, the black wolves that had not been beaten by Zissou gathered under the tree where Zissou was now, surrounded him, knelt down on the ground in a dense crowd, and, under the leadership of the Black Wolf King, kowtowed to the tree. While kowtowing, they shouted, "Please, Immortal, have mercy on us, save us from the sea of suffering." Zissou, who was eating leaves crazily on the tree to replenish his energy, saw the puzzling scene under the tree and asked in confusion, "What are you doing? What's the matter? Can't we even have a meal in peace?" Before he finished speaking, he felt that he had eaten too fast and too much, and digested too quickly, so naturally some waste accumulated in his large intestine, and then marched through the large intestine to his feces. He couldn't hold it back for a while, and suddenly rushed out from under his buttocks. With a puff, all of them fell straight down from the tree like a fairy scattering flowers, and fell in a radius of 4 or 5 meters under the tree. It just happened to fall on the faces of more than a dozen black wolves, including the Black Wolf King. A strong fishy smell went straight into the nostrils of these lucky guys who were evenly treated, making these guys laugh and cry, and they dared not complain or scold, for fear of offending the martial god Immortal. They could only comfort themselves in their hearts, "Maybe this is the martial god Immortal, who deliberately tested us to test whether we are sincere. We must hold back and not disappoint the Immortal's earnest expectations. Besides, it is better for this Immortal to stink us with feces than to kill us. It seems that the Immortal may have taken pity on us." Zissou saw that the group of idiots under the tree were not scared away by the diarrhea he accidentally pulled out, and did not blame or complain about his unscrupulous behavior. They still knelt under the tree and worshipped him devoutly. He felt very curious. What virtue did he have to make these idiots worship him like this? Could it be that he killed their companions, and killed them well and wonderfully? How is this possible? Even a fool would not think so. Why is that? He couldn't help but ask curiously, "Hey, why are you always gathering under my tree? Now you have eaten my farts and smelled my stinky shit, why don't you leave now? Do you want to wait for me to come down from the tree and then take revenge on me?" The Black Wolf King hurriedly defended himself. How dare we take revenge on you now? Even if you lend us 18 goats, we dare not take revenge on you." Zissou pressed again. "Then why are you still staying under the tree?" The Black Wolf King had to show his trump card and said, "We want you to be our protector and protect my tribe from harm by other beasts." Zissou suddenly realized, so that's the case. Why didn't you say it earlier? I worried for nothing and lost a lot of brain cells. Don't you think I'm wronged? The Black Wolf King was muttering in his heart, "You are still crying out for injustice, but we are the ones who should be complaining. We have been hungry for several days, and we are still kneeling to you with an empty stomach. What is most unfair to us is that you have killed so many of our brothers, and we cannot avenge you. We have to ask you to protect us and kneel down to kowtow to you. We are the most wronged, pitiful, and wretched sufferers in the world." Although he, like all his brothers and friends, was complaining in his heart and wanted to cry out for injustice, he dared not utter a word, for fear of angering this martial god. Would their begging and kneeling down be in vain? However, Zissou did not want to be the patron saint of this group of hungry wolves, not for anything else, but because he had just killed them and left them with corpses everywhere, ghosts crying and wolves howling, and now he had to be their patron saint, which really made him unable to turn this corner. However, they were so sincere and did not dislike the stinky shit he had pulled on their faces, which made Zissou feel embarrassed. "Look, they are so nice to you and have forgiven you. How can you refuse them?" However, Zissou really couldn't accept such a big change, so he found an excuse that was not an excuse. "Delay. You have to let me finish this meal first. I don't know what's going on. Recently, I used to eat meat, but you disturbed me tonight and I can't eat meat. I have to chew leaves. But why can't I feel full after eating these leaves? And they poop out while eating. What should I do?" When the Black Wolf King under the tree heard this, he was so angry that he rushed to his head, but he didn't dare to get angry. He could only think depressedly, "You obviously don't want to agree to a request, but I didn't expect that you would find such a low-level excuse. Isn't this an insult to the IQ of our wolf pack? But how can I put an end to his childish excuses?" Suddenly, the Black Wolf King remembered something. "Didn't he kill dozens of our brothers and buddies? Let him come down and eat some of our dead brothers. This time, I wonder if he has any excuses. Having made up his mind, the Black Wolf King raised his head and said to Zisu, "Great martial god, don't you want to eat meat but can't? Below us, there are some black wolves that were accidentally killed by you. You can eat them as you like. We won't have any objections. In fact, if you don't eat them, we will all be hungry later and eat them. We will never leave them for other beasts to enjoy. This is also called keeping the wealth within the family. If you become our patron saint, then it will be the same whether you eat or we eat. There is no difference. We are all our own people." The Zisu panda, who was hiding in the tree and eating leaves, was still hesitant and stammered, This is not good, right? I want to be your patron saint and eat your meat." "I have never heard of such a weird patron saint in the world," the Black Wolf King explained impatiently. "Great immortal martial god, you are so stubborn, why can't I convince you? When you refer to us in the past, I mean those brothers who died, but you are protecting us now, the ones who are still alive under the tree." Zisu still couldn't accept it, and deliberately teased the Black Wolf King. "Why do I feel like you are talking about tongue twisters? It's a waste of your talent if you don't become a crosstalk actor. Alice, it's a pity that you are not a human being. You really were born in the wrong body." What a pity, what a pity, what a pity." The Black Wolf King was really a little anxious, and asked quickly, "Don't say so many pity things. Will you agree to a request or not?" Zisu heard that the Black Wolf King actually wanted to force herself, and immediately asked back in dissatisfaction, "Are you begging me, or forcing me to submit?" When the Black Wolf King heard this, he immediately realized that he was indeed a little too hasty, so he had to beg, "My martial god Grandpa, how dare I force you to submit? I am just a little anxious, please be our protector, okay?" Chapter 538 Please Don't Eat Me. Seeing that the Black Wolf King had given in so quickly, Zisu said nonchalantly, "Actually, I didn't say I refused your request, but I still need time to think about it." When the Black Wolf King heard this, he felt that there was still a glimmer of hope, and he couldn't help but be overjoyed, but then he thought again, this martial god is really hard to invite, so is it that our sincerity is not enough? This won't happen. I have already made up my mind to let him eat our brothers who just died. Is he still not satisfied? Yes, that's right, he must want to eat live and fresh ones. He doesn't like the smelly corpses of the dead, and he has no appetite. What can we do? Yes, I got it. Among our brothers who were injured by him, there must be those who are seriously injured and about to die. Let him eat these seriously injured brothers. Having made up his mind, the Black Wolf King raised his head and said, "Grandpa Martial God, do you think we are not sincere enough? I have an idea now. I can let you eat our severely injured and difficult to heal food. It is guaranteed to be fresh and delicious. This will at least prove that we are really sincere, right?" Zisu was shocked when she heard it. It seems that the Black Wolf King really spent a lot of money and agreed to such a humiliating condition of selling out a country for glory. I can't find an excuse to pretend. It seems that I can't join them even if I don't want to. Oh, forget it. Just join, and I can still act according to the circumstances when the time comes. He sighed deeply and said, "Oh, it's true. I didn't expect you to be so sincere. What else can I say? I have to agree to your request." He never expected that this great god of war would actually agree to his request and be willing to be the patron saint of his tribe. This made the Black Wolf King so excited that he was at a loss for a moment. He just kept kowtowing to the great god of war and muttered to himself, thank you so much." He even knocked a small pit on the grass. Zisu found it funny to see the Black Wolf King being so happy, so he said something else and immediately woke the Black Wolf King up. He said, "If your performance in the future doesn't satisfy me, I will leave at any time." How dare I? We will definitely satisfy you," the Black Wolf King hurriedly vowed. "From now on, your words are the imperial edict, more effective than mine. Whoever dares not listen, I will make him pay." "Well, then, I'll come down now and see what's delicious." As soon as Zisu finished speaking, he slid down from the tree with a swoosh, and walked in front of the Black Wolf King. When the Black Wolf King saw him, he quickly stood up and told his Black Wolf brothers to make way immediately so that Zisu could see the black wolves that he had killed or injured, and he could eat whichever one he wanted. Zisu walked up to the black wolves lying on the ground, squatted down, put his fingers on their necks, felt their pulse to see if they were dead or not, and examined them carefully one by one with great patience. He didn't look like a beast going to eat them, but more like a doctor treating a patient. As for the black wolves that were really killed, He abandoned them one by one and ignored them. At this time, he felt the pulse of a black wolf and found that its pulse was normal. Based on his experience, this black wolf should have suffered some minor injuries, but was now pretending to be dead. He couldn't help but laugh, so he patted its arm heavily and said, "Why are you pretending? Hurry up and get up." Unexpectedly, the black wolf was frightened and trembling all over. It raised its head tremblingly, opened its eyes and looked at Zissou, stammering, Master, please don't eat me. I still want to live." Hearing what he said, Zissou couldn't help laughing, and then asked, "Who said I wanted to eat you?" The black wolf looked at Zissou in some confusion, and asked in return, "Didn't my king say that you like to eat live and fresh things?" When Zissou heard this, he immediately understood, "So this is how you understood what I meant. This is so funny. This is a complete misunderstanding. Okay, get up quickly, don't stay here pretending to be dead and affect my work." "Of course, I promise not to eat you." The black wolf was overjoyed and quickly got up and kowtowed to Zissou, saying, Thank you so much for your kindness. I'll leave now and promise not to affect your work." As soon as he finished speaking, he immediately stood up from the ground and rolled away. After a while, Zissou came to check on another black wolf lying on the ground and found that he was seriously injured and could not survive. Seeing this, Zissou could not help but shed tears sadly and said guiltily, "Oh, it's all my fault. I hit you so hard and killed you. This is my sin." Unexpectedly, the black wolf opened his eyes with difficulty, glanced at Zissou, and slowly said, "Great immortal, I don't blame you, it's my bad luck. I know I am seriously injured and I won't die. You might as well eat me now to fulfill my king's wish." Zissou said, "That won't do. I have already made a mistake. How can I make it worse? I'm sorry that I can't comply with your request. I will not accept it. You should just enjoy the last moment of your life quietly. I'm leaving." Watching Zissou leave, the black wolf said to himself, "Good man, really good man. Why didn't you beat me to death with one punch? I felt so uncomfortable. What a good life." When Zissou walked to a black wolf lying on the ground with an injury, the black wolf groaned in pain and said, "Great immortal, I'm in so much pain now. I guess I won't live long. You might as well eat me now to save me from the pain." Zissou heard this, squatted down, carefully checked its injuries, and said after a moment, "It's okay. I just broke 2 ribs and you have some internal injuries. I will connect your ribs right away and find some healing herbs to apply to you. You will get better soon. Don't worry." "Really? Great immortal, you have extraordinary martial arts skills. Are you also good at medicine?" the black wolf asked half doubtfully. "You will know whether it works or not later. Okay, don't talk. I will start to treat you now," Zissou said with a clear mind. As soon as he finished speaking, Zissou began to input key energy into the injured black wolf to relieve its pain. Then, he used massage techniques to connect its broken ribs. He also found some healing herbs in the forest nearby, chewed them in his mouth, spit them out and put them on his palms. Then he applied them to the injured part of the black wolf and tied it up with long grass and vines. This is the simplest and most primitive healing technique. In this way, Zissou treated more than a dozen seriously injured brothers of the Black Wolf King. He was exhausted and panting, mainly because he had to transmit key energy to these seriously injured soldiers, which consumed his physical strength. He could not hold on any longer, but nearly half of the seriously injured soldiers still needed treatment. As a last resort, he had to shamelessly say to the Black Wolf King, "My king, you see, you still have so many brothers who need me to treat them, but I am now too exhausted and I am afraid I can't serve you. What do you think we should do?" Chapter 539 Come to Eat Brothers. The Black Wolf King was confused for a moment and asked, "Great immortal martial god, do you mean, you want to take a break or eat something?" Zissou had to be honest. "Of course, I want to eat something, and it's best to eat meat." When the Black Wolf King heard this, he suddenly realized, so, the great immortal wants to eat wolf meat, but is too embarrassed to ask? This is easy, didn't I just say it? All of us Black Wolf brothers are chivalrous and brave, and are all heroes who are not afraid of death. Whether it's dead or alive, you can eat whatever you want, don't be polite. The Black Wolf King's words made Zissou blush, which was even more uncomfortable than slapping him in the face, as if he was a cold-blooded and bloodthirsty demon. He hurriedly explained, "Don't think so badly of me. As long as it's meat, I don't dare to eat living brothers against my conscience." Hearing this, The Black Wolf King couldn't help but said excitedly, "Then you mean, dead ones are fine too?" Zisu nodded immediately and said, "Of course they are eaten dead. Besides, I think everyone is probably starving now, right? How about we all come together to eat our dead brothers?" The Black Wolf King asked again, "Then which ones are dead, and which ones are temporarily unconscious?" Hearing this, Zisu couldn't help but get anxious. "I'm sorry, actually, I just took a rough look and forgot to classify them. How about this, you kick each black wolf lying on the ground motionless twice. If it doesn't wake up, it's considered dead. If one of them pretends to be dead on purpose or faints and doesn't wake up again, it's unlucky for him." The Black Wolf King agreed very much and said, "Great immortal martial god, that's a great idea. Let's do it." After that, he turned around and ordered the black wolves around him, "Brothers, everyone must be starving. Now there is something delicious. Look at those unlucky guys lying on the ground motionless. Go up and kick them hard twice. If they still don't move, they will be considered a delicacy for everyone. Let's enjoy this delicious meal to our heart's content." A black wolf who didn't know the current situation suddenly asked, "If he is my friend or relative, should I not eat him?" The Black Wolf King scolded impatiently, "Why are you talking so much nonsense? If you don't eat, do you not allow other brothers to eat? Won't you eat other brothers' friends and relatives? You idiot, you really make me angry." Since the Black Wolf King had given the order, the black wolves, who had long been starving, immediately rushed forward in a swarm, and kicked the black wolf lying on the ground, regardless of whether it was dead or alive. Even if it was alive, it would probably be kicked to death. However, some were really woken up by the kicks. This old man was tired from kowtow just now, and wanted to take a nap to have a good rest. Unexpectedly, he was kicked awake by being kicked as a dead wolf. These starving brothers didn't care that he was awake, and they impatiently bit him as if he were a dead wolf. Immediately, the old man was scared out of his wits and shouted, "What are you doing? Are you killing each other?" "What? I just took a nap and there was a mutiny. Are they going to blow up the camp?" The starving brother who had just bitten the old man's butt looked up and saw that the delicacy he was about to eat was alive. He immediately blushed and defended himself. "I'm sorry, I didn't look carefully just now. And thought you were dead." "You are dead, your whole family is dead," the sleeping old man cursed back angrily. Seeing this, Zisu hurried over to persuade them. "Why are you quarreling?" The black wolf that was kicked awake said, "I was sleeping well here, but I didn't expect that this bastard not only kicked me awake, but also wanted to eat me." Zisu was stunned. It turned out to be a misunderstanding, so he hurriedly explained, "I asked them to do this. If you can wake up, you won't eat it. Only those who can't be woken up can be eaten. Maybe he didn't expect you to wake up and was too anxious. This is a complete misunderstanding. Please forgive me." The black wolf that was kicked awake sighed and said to himself, "When did the brothers become so insidious and terrible?" Zisu was also muttering in his heart, "Isn't this caused by hunger?" After eating all the dead wolves with everyone, Zisu turned back into the panda doctor and began to treat the injured black wolves that still had a chance to be cured. After finishing all this, he was integrating into the big family of the Black Wolf King's group of black wolves. Although a powerful being like Zisu had joined, the wolf pack still did not catch much food. Many black wolves had pale faces. Zisu did not understand why, so he asked the Black Wolf King, "My lord, why is our wolf pack still so hungry after I joined?" "What's going on?" The Black Wolf King sighed deeply and said slowly, "In fact, I have wanted to tell you about this issue for a long time, but I just didn't know how to start." Zisu was stunned when he heard this, and said, "Haven't I joined you now and become your protector? Is there anything else that can't be said?" The Black Wolf King seemed to have made up his mind, and spoke slowly and leisurely, "In that case, I will tell you everything. In fact, we are not active in this area, but live in the tropical savanna 200 or 300 kilometers southwest of here. There are all kinds of herds of herbivores there, such as cattle, sheep, red deer, roe deer, etc., for us to hunt. We have always lived a carefree life. However, not long ago, a large group of lions and tigers suddenly came from somewhere, snatching our food, and not allowing us to share with them. They even drove us out unreasonably, trying to dominate the prairie. Therefore, we had to leave our happy home on which we depended for survival and wandered around, and only then did we meet you, the great martial god." After hearing what he said, Zisu suddenly realized, it turns out that this guy is desperately asking me to be their patron saint for a purpose. 9 out of 10 times he wants me to deal with that large group of lions and tigers. I said, why is he so respectful and courteous to me? So that's the case. There is really no free lunch in the world. Thinking of this, Zissou pretended to ask casually, how many lions and tigers are there in that large group? When the Black Wolf King heard this, he couldn't help but hesitate and said, I didn't count carefully, but there are probably quite a few. In short, the grasslands with a radius of hundreds or thousands of kilometers are almost all occupied by them. They have many groups, each of which has more than 10 to dozens of lions, or 5 or 6 to 10 tigers, occupying a territory of more than 10 to dozens of kilometers. Moreover, they are very domineering and powerful. They don't allow other carnivores to approach, and only allow herbivores to come and go freely. I never thought that there were so many lions and tigers here. This was far beyond Zissou's expectations, but it did not scare him. Instead, it aroused his strong desire for battle, which burned in his chest like a raging fire. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 540, Fighting the Tiger with Wisdom. Zissou thought carefully for a long time and said, I will go and help you take back a piece of grassland habitat now, okay? The Black Wolf King looked at Zissou in surprise and asked in disbelief, really? Are you really willing to help us take back a piece of grassland living area? Zissou nodded without doubt and said, of course, otherwise, wouldn't I, the guardian god, become a decoration? Unexpectedly, the Black Wolf King calmed down at this time, thought about it, and then said seriously, do you know that the prairie is full of dangers and there is danger of losing your life at any time? Although I know that you are a martial god with the great kung fu, they are all a group of ferocious beasts. I am worried that you are alone and cannot do anything. Zissou was not as pessimistic as him, but said confidently, if I go alone, of course there will be many difficulties. However, if I have your help, I think I still have hope to help you return to your beautiful home. The Black Wolf King asked doubtfully, Great Immortal, do you have any magic trick to help us take back a piece of precious land? Zissou explained the battle plan he had considered to the Black Wolf King in detail. After hearing it, the Black Wolf King was excited and confident. He immediately stood up and said, what are we waiting for? We will set off immediately. I estimate that we will reach the prairie in 2 or 3 days. 2 days later, in the evening, Zissou finally came to the edge of the prairie with a wolf pack led by the Black Wolf King, and then rested for a night in the forest around the prairie. As soon as the sky got light, the Black Wolf King took Zissou to patrol the prairie to see which prairie area had the least number of occupiers, lions or tigers, so that they could make plans. After a few days, they finally locked onto a piece of prairie treasure land, which was ruled by 6 tigers, 1 male, 1 female and 4 cubs. The 2 big tigers, 1 male and 1 female, were the biggest danger, while the 4 cubs were only half the size of a big tiger and were easier to deal with. Let alone asking Zissou to deal with the whole family of tigers at the same time, even asking him to deal with the 2 big tigers, 1 male and 1 female, would be very strenuous and there was no guarantee of victory. The only way was to find a way to separate the 2 big tigers. That evening, the Black Wolf King, in accordance with Zissou's prior arrangement, sent out 5 of the most combat-capable black wolves in the wolf pack to compete with the big tigers for food and also to prey on a group of sika deer. This angered the money-loving tigress, who ran out alone to drive away the 5 annoying black wolves. Unexpectedly, the 5 black wolves gradually attracted her to a place far away from the tiger's den and close to a small forest. When she was about to catch up with the 5 black wolves, suddenly, a giant panda jumped down from a big tree next to the small forest and blocked the tigress's way. This giant panda was naturally Zissou. He was heard saying to the tigress in Tiger Mandarin, "Hey, what are you doing? You are bullying me." The tigress looked at the giant panda that fell from the sky in front of her and asked in confusion, "What do you mean by bullying? I'm chasing a thief." "What's it got to do with you?" Zissou said disapprovingly. "Of course it's my business. Because I'm the patron saint they invited." The tigress looked at Zissou in disbelief and asked, "You, a vegetarian giant panda, are the patron saint of their wolf pack? You are really kidding. Do you think I will believe such a low-level joke of yours?" Zissou said firmly, "Believe it or not, it's up to you." But if you want to chase them, you have to get past me first. The tigress couldn't help but feel surprised and amused by Zisu's boldness, so she warned him, "Boy, if you know what's good for you, get out of the way. Otherwise, I don't mind tasting the delicious panda meat today." Zisu looked at the tigress fearlessly and said, "Why are you wasting your words? If you've got the guts, just come and eat me." The tigress was so angry that she roared, shaking all over, "You don't know how to live or die? Don't blame me for being cold-blooded now." As soon as the words fell, she pounced on Zisu with overwhelming momentum. "Well, come on." After saying that, Zisu suddenly rolled to the left in a quick and continuous manner, just avoiding the tigress's first pounce. The tigress was surprised to see that her first pounce missed. She couldn't help but look at the panda with a new eye. She immediately turned around and faced Zisu, who had stood up and was facing her again. She re-examined him and said, "Good boy, I didn't expect you to be able to do this. I want to see how long you can hide." Before she finished speaking, the tigress suddenly soared into the air, and suddenly rose 5 feet high. From a high position, she launched her second pounce on Zisu. Unexpectedly, this time Zisu did not roll to the left or right to avoid, but pounced forward to the ground, which was exactly the opposite of the tigress's pounce, and happened to avoid her pounce again. Then, without saying a word, the tigress launched dozens or hundreds of continuous and impenetrable pounces, whipping and roaring, but each time Zisu cleverly avoided them. Gradually, the tigress's attack became slower and slower. Finally, she was so tired that she lay on the ground panting and could not move. She could only stare at Zisu in a daze, gasping for breath. Unexpectedly, at this time, Zisu walked up to the tigress with a proud look, less than 2 meters in front of her, and said to her with a smile, "Now it seems that you have had enough fun. It's my turn to play." Just as he finished speaking, he suddenly kicked the tigress's left face hard, and with a muffled sound of bang, he kicked her to the ground. No mistake, 1 post, 1 content, 1-6-1-9, 1 book, 1 bar, look. When the tigress just got up from the ground in a rage, unexpectedly, Zisu rushed up again, kicked the tigress's right face hard with another foot, and with a muffled sound of bang, he kicked her to the ground again. This time, it was even more difficult for her to get up. With Zisu's continuous kicks, it became more and more difficult for the tigress to get up. Finally, she was unable to get up at all, closed her eyes, and fainted. At this time, the Black Wolf King, who was hiding in the grove watching all this, was overjoyed and excitedly shouted, "Guys, follow me and eat tiger meat." As soon as the voice fell, suddenly, 200 or 300 black wolves rushed out of the grove, scrambling to pounce on the tigress who had fainted on the ground, fighting for and sharing the delicious tiger meat. But Zisu, the biggest contributor, did not rush forward to grab the food, but just stood aside and watched with ease, thinking about the next battle. After this successful experience, the next battle was much easier. Basically, it was the same old routine as last time, and it was just the same. However, this male tiger was much more cunning than the female tiger, or in other words, he was not as diligent as the female tiger. Zisu had to spend a lot of time to subdue and capture it, and he was also slightly injured. I won't explain it in detail here. After dealing with the 2 big tigers, the remaining 4 cubs were no problem. Zisu knocked them to the ground in no time. Finally, the wolves rushed forward to enjoy another delicious meal. In this way, with the help of Zisu, the Black Wolf King and his subordinates finally had a habitat of their own on this prairie. Chapter 541, Being Rejected. After Zisu and the Black Wolf King's brothers occupied a piece of precious habitat on the prairie, they began a happy and wonderful life. Every day, many herbivores such as cattle, sheep, elk and other herbivores passed by or came to visit here, giving them endless delicious food. However, Zisu and the Black Wolf King did not allow the Black Wolf brothers to kill or hunt indiscriminately, and only allowed them to hunt the old, weak, sick and disabled herbivores to protect the ecological balance. However, the good times did not last long. As the sun sets and the sky is filled with sunset glow, a large group of elk leisurely come to the grassland that belongs to the territory of the Black Wolf King. They nibble on the fresh grass and tender leaves around the grove, and then run to the pond more than 100 meters away from the grove to drink water and play. Suddenly, the wolves hidden in the grove, led by the Black Wolf King, pounce on the group of elk, and the daily hunting and feasting operation begins. Suddenly, a dirty stray lion jumped out from somewhere. Obviously, This is a very down-and-out male lion. The mane on his neck is messy and some of it is falling off. He is skinny and has a shriveled stomach, showing severe malnutrition. It is almost certain that wherever he goes, he may be driven away by the powerful and ferocious lion and tiger rulers, so that he cannot get enough food to supplement and maintain his basic survival requirements. Over time, he will become weak and die of illness. At this time, he looked at the desperately fleeing elk in front of him. His eyes were filled with hunger. Soon, he found that the elk were not chased by a group of powerful lions or fierce tigers, but a large group of black wolves. This made him a little hesitant. Finally, the strong hunger and uncontrollable appetite forced him to take risks and join the elk hunting team regardless of everything. In a blink of an eye, this uninvited guest was discovered by the Black Wolf King, and the Black Wolf King was very angry. In a rage, the Black Wolf King ordered his men to split into two groups, one to continue chasing and hunting elk, and the other to drive away the stray lion. Obviously, this hungry stray lion had no fighting spirit and was not the opponent of a group of aggressive black wolves. Seeing that the situation was not good, he immediately turned around and fled. However, he did not go far away, but hid in the distance, waiting for the best time to come back. As night fell, the grassland gradually calmed down. The wandering lion, who had nothing to gain, had to go to the mountains near the grassland to hunt small animals such as mountain mice and hares in order to maintain the minimum needs of his life and not starve to death soon. Unexpectedly, 2 days later, 3 tigers, 1 male and 2 females, came from the nearby mountains. The tigers came down the mountain and pounced on the wolf pack fiercely. It was obvious that these 3 forest bandits were rushing to the territory that the Black Wolf had recently occupied. Seeing this, the Black Wolf King was immediately furious and immediately led the Black Wolf pack to bravely rush up and start a fierce battle with the 3 tigers. The 2 sides fought together, and the battle was extremely tragic. Although the Black Wolves were numerous, their individual combat power was too weak. Although the tigers were powerful, their number was limited. Not long after, the Black Wolves bit all 3 tigers seriously with 12 dead and 27 wounded. At this time, Zisu, the patron saint of the Black Wolf, suddenly appeared. With a series of dazzling martial arts moves, he killed the 3 tigers one by one. Finally, everyone held another feast of delicious tiger meat. Unexpectedly, before 2 days of peace, bigger troubles came again. In the middle of the night, a group of leopards suddenly rushed down from the mountain. Wow, there were 15 leopards at once, which gave Zisu and the Black Wolf King a headache, but they were not scared. Zisu and the Black Wolves attacked at the same time. The Black Wolf King led his men to resist the attack of 15 leopards from the front, while Zisu took advantage of the situation to give the leopards a fatal blow, making the leopards unable to defend themselves. Soon, the leopards saw that the situation was not good, so they left 8 or 9 bodies and fled. In this battle, the Black Wolf King won a major victory by killing 7 leopards and biting 2 leopards to death at a cost of killing 14 black wolves and injuring 18 black wolves. Among the black wolves killed by leopards, most of them were attacked by leopards by surprise. In other words, they were attacked by leopards when they were sleeping and not on guard. This forced Zisu and the Black Wolf King to raise the night alert level to level 1, changing from 1 or 2 sentinels. Tonight, the Black Wolf on guard fell asleep in the middle of the night and was almost attacked by the leopards, to 4 shifts, with 3 black wolves in each shift, changing shifts every 3 hours. In addition, there are at least 2 shifts of secret sentries, and these secret sentries are all on duty by the strongest black wolves, so that there is no risk of error. From then on, the tigers and leopards on the mountain never came down the mountain again. Only when herbivores came to drink water at dusk, 1 or 2 stray male lions would harass them from time to time. For Zisu and the Black Wolf King, this was just an itch on the skin and not a big deal. However, this morning, a large group of wild elephants unexpectedly came. There were as many as 38 wild elephants of all sizes. What was even more annoying was that they occupied the best location in the grassland of Zisu and Black Wolf King, where there were dense trees, abundant grass and water sources, and they seemed to have a tendency to stay for a long time, because Zisu found that there were 2 or 3 female elephants with big bellies, probably pregnant female elephants, who might have taken a fancy to this place and wanted to give birth here. In fact, if the arrival of this group of elephants had no impact on the lives of Zisu and the Black Wolf pack, it would be fine. However, Since the elephants occupied the best treasure land of the Black Wolf King grassland, the herbivores such as elk and sika deer that often visited here rarely came here. Most of the ones who came here became large herbivores such as cattle, horses and giraffes, which greatly increased the difficulty of hunting for the Black Wolf pack. This time, Zissou and the Black Wolf King were very anxious. For a behemoth like an elephant, they would not even think of fighting it. It was a headache just to look at it, and they usually kept their distance from it. Moreover, there were dozens of them now. What should they do? It seemed that this problem had to be handed over to Zissou to deal with. Only he had the ability to do so. It would be difficult for anyone else to deal with it. That afternoon, Zissou came to the place where the elephants lived and asked a male elephant, "Excuse me, Mr. Elephant, is the leader of your elephant tribe here? Please take me to see him." The male elephant casually pulled up a handful of tender grass with his trunk and stuffed it into his mouth, and said in a condescending manner, "The leader of our elephant tribe is very busy. Do you have an appointment with him?" What? Zissou was stunned when he heard it. He didn't expect that these elephants would be so arrogant. It was really a bit like humans playing big cards. He couldn't help but ask puzzledly, "I don't know him at all, how can I have an appointment?" Unexpectedly, the male elephant impatiently ordered him to leave. "Since you don't have an appointment, please go back. Our leader has no time to receive uninvited guests like you." No mistakes in one poem, one post, one content, one book, one forum. When Zissou heard this, he became furious and pointed at the male elephant and said, "Just wait and see, I will eventually meet your leader." Humph. After saying that, he left in a rage. Chapter 542, Each takes what it needs. After being turned down that time, Zissou no longer went directly to find the leader of the elephant group. Instead, he observed from a distance of dozens of meters outside the elephant group, trying to identify the elephant who was the leader. After 2 days of careful observation, there were 12 male elephants in the group, and the rest were female elephants. Among the 12 male elephants, one was very old, silent, and almost didn't care about anything. He could be completely excluded. There was also an older male elephant, the guy with a bad attitude that Zissou met last time. It is estimated that he can also be excluded because almost no female elephants came to approach him. Among the remaining 10 male elephants, 9 were relatively young male elephants. They were lively and active and liked to play around. Obviously, they also had to be excluded. The remaining male elephant was in his prime, energetic, nosy, and the female elephant obeyed his instructions. Obviously, this was the male elephant that Zissou was looking for, the leader of this elephant tribe. But how to approach this big male elephant? Zissou found that the leader of the elephant group was either eating, drinking, defecating, urinating, sleeping, or flirting and talking about love all day long. He also liked to meddle in other people's business. In short, he had never done anything serious. For such a guy, Zissou could hardly expect to get any results from talking to him. Think about it, maybe he has finally taken a fancy to this place, but you want him to get out, and you have no reason to scare him. Will he listen to you? If he doesn't scold you and kick you out, that's the best you can expect. What good results can you expect? The more Zissou thought about it, the more discouraged he became. What should he do? Unless he has something to ask you for, or you take out enough chips, then it is possible to realize your wish. At least for now, it seems that there is no such possibility. Just when he was at a loss, he took a walk to this precious land where the elephants lived in the morning and suddenly found that something had happened here. The female elephants gathered together and formed an airtight wall, while bursts of painful screams of the female elephants came from the wall. Zissou, who was once the panda doctor, knew that the female elephants were giving birth. If they did not give birth to a baby elephant by the afternoon, it meant that the female elephant had a dystocia. At that time, it would be the best time for Zissou to take action. On the contrary, if the female elephant gave birth naturally, then Zissou would have no chance this time. Now Zissou could only wait patiently. At 3 o'clock in the afternoon, the female elephant in labor was still motionless. Except for groaning in pain, she no longer had the strength to scream. The female elephants gathered around her. Some shook their heads and sighed, some whispered, and the big male elephant, the leader of the elephant tribe, walked back and forth outside the female elephants very irritably. At this time, Zissou thought the time was ripe and it was time for him to take action, so he immediately jumped out from his hiding place and shouted to the helpless elephant leader in Elephant Mandarin, "The panda doctor is here." Do you need him to take a look at the mother elephant and help her give birth smoothly? Both mother and child are safe. The elephant leader looked at Zissa with suspicion and asked, "You, the panda, no medical skills. Can you deliver a baby for my concubine?" Zissa said confidently, "I have treated all kinds of animals for several years and cured countless difficult and complicated diseases. Of course, I have also cured the mother elephant's dystocia." Seeing that Zissa seemed very confident, the elephant leader agreed to let Zissa go and give it a try. At this point, he had no choice but to try his best. No matter whether he was a miracle doctor or a quack, even if he was a quack, he had to give him a try. So, the leader of the elephant herd asked the female elephants to make way for Zissou, who claimed to be the panda miracle doctor, to go in and deliver the baby of the female elephant. When Zissou arrived at the scene of the female elephant's delivery, he knew at a glance that the female elephant was having a difficult delivery due to an abnormal fetal position. Therefore, Zissou began to treat the female elephant. Before, when Zissou did not have kung fu, he used bamboo sticks or branches to stimulate the acupuncture points to treat ordinary animals or elephants. But now that Zissou has kung fu, he decided to use kung fu, kicken, to treat a female elephant. He pressed both sides of the elephant's abdomen with both hands, continuously delivering his breath and energy to the elephant, allowing her to gain enough strength for childbirth, and then stretched out a finger to touch the elephant's hagu acupoint, inputting energy to stimulate the acupoint again, and asked the elephant to obey his command and cooperate with the treatment. Half an hour later, Zissou was sweating all over and finally corrected the dystocia of the elephant. After about a quarter of an hour, the elephant successfully gave birth to a chubby baby elephant. Both mother and child were safe, and everyone was happy. The leader of the elephant group was overjoyed and expressed his sincere gratitude to Zissou, and asked Zissou if he needed any help, and he would try his best to satisfy it. Zissou thought about it seriously and said, "What do you think of this precious land where you live now?" The leader of the elephant group answered without hesitation, "It's very good. There is food and drink, and the environment is beautiful." Unexpectedly, Zissou said, "Then you know that this precious land actually belongs to us, and since you occupied it, many herbivores no longer come here, so we can no longer live the carefree life we once had. Therefore, your arrival really disturbs our lives." The leader of the elephant group couldn't help but ask curiously, "You? But we have been here for so long and have not seen any pandas. Today is the first time I see you. Is there a large group of pandas hiding here? What's more, I haven't heard that you like to eat meat. I only know that you like to eat bamboo branches and leaves." When Zissou heard this, he knew that the other party had misunderstood him, and hurriedly explained, "I'm not talking about pandas, but a large group of black wolves. I am their protector now." The leader of the elephant group suddenly realized and said, "So that's how it is. However, what you said is not easy to do. We have finally found such an ideal place after so much hardship. How can I convince my wives and subjects?" Hearing the other party's complaints, Zissou had to fall into deep thought. Suddenly, an idea flashed through his mind. He proposed his own idea. "How about this? You send a few strong male elephants to help us snatch a piece of precious land occupied by lions or tigers nearby as compensation for your occupation of our precious land? What do you think?" The leader of the elephant group thought that Zissou's idea was good. Why not do something that would benefit both parties? Besides, they didn't have anything important to do now, so they were free. The two sides finally reached an agreement on this important issue. Zissou couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief, and agreed with the other party that when Zissou found a good place, he would meet with the elephants and take unified action. After Zissou returned, he immediately told the Black Wolf King the good news. The Black Wolf King was so happy that he immediately decided to send out several waves of Black Wolf reconnaissance teams at dusk the next day to see if there were the most herbivores and the best water sources on that precious land. Now that they had the elephants to support them, they were not afraid of any number of lions and tigers. Chapter 543, Disaster Strikes. A few days later, Zissou and the Black Wolf King compared and analyzed the intelligence reported by various reconnaissance teams. There was a relatively large lake 150 kilometers southwest of here, and there were many trees, flowers and plants, and many herbivorous animals. However, it was ruled by a lion group consisting of more than 30 lions of different sizes. Although the distance was a little far, the conditions here were the best. The Black Wolf King wanted to capture this precious land. Although other places were much closer and there were not so many lions or tigers, the conditions were much worse. However, Zissou rejected the Black Wolf King's opinion for two reasons. First, there were too many lions there, and it would take several male elephants to deal with them, which was costly. Second, the distance was too far. Even if elephants were sent to drive away the lions, if the lions came back to attack the Black Wolf King's troops in the future, and the elephants were too far away from the Black Wolf King's wolf pack, distant water could not save nearby fires, and Zissou could not support it alone, which would be troublesome. This was also the key to the problem. The Black Wolf King said, "Why don't we ask the elephants to move over there? Anyway, the land there is much larger than here, so it shouldn't affect the normal life of the wolves." Zissou said, "It's not as simple as you think. If the place is suitable for the elephants to live, the elephants would have set up camp there long ago. There must be no plants that the elephants like to eat, or they don't like the noisy environment there." This time, the Black Wolf King was stumped, but Zissou comforted him. "Why be so greedy? In fact, I think this treasure land adjacent to us in the east is not bad. There are water, trees, grass, and many herbivorous animals that we like to eat. There are only a dozen lions, and the nearest distance is only 4 or 5 kilometers away from here. In the future, when there is a crisis, it will be very convenient for the elephants to come to rescue, and if the elephants have any illness, it will be convenient for me to treat them. Mutual benefit is good for both parties. I think this is the most ideal place. What do you think?" After Zissou's calm analysis, the Black Wolf King gradually came to his senses and finally agreed to Zissou's suggestion. The next morning, Zissou told the leader of the elephant group about his plan and explained the benefits of doing so to both sides. The leader of the elephant group readily agreed and immediately led 9 young male elephants to the eastern neighbor of the Black Wolf group. Faced with the unreasonable expulsion of the 10 elephants that suddenly broke in, the leader of the small tribe with only a dozen lions, the Lion King, was so angry that he trembled all over, but he could not muster the idea of resistance. In the end, he had to lead his subordinates to withdraw in disgrace, leave their homes, and go to other places to find a new habitat. Afterwards, Zissou and the Black Wolf King led a large group of black wolves to swagger and accept the new territory captured by the elephant group for them. This is how Zissou, with his superb medical skills and silver tongue, obtained a larger piece of precious land on the prairie without firing a single shot. As Zissou expected, the lions that were driven away by the elephants were unwilling to accept their defeat. Soon after that, they attacked and harassed Zissou and the Black Wolf King's new territory every now and then, but they were repelled every time by the elephant reinforcements called by Zissou. Soon after, the cunning lions changed to attacking at night, making Zissou and his team defenseless. Finally, Zissou simply asked the leader of the elephant tribe to send 3 young male elephants to be stationed in Zissou and the Black Wolf King's new territory for a long time, so that the lion's intention to restore the throne was gradually eliminated. With the elephant tribe as a strong backer, Zissou and the Black Wolf King's wolf tribe finally settled down in this tropical savanna, and their lives gradually calmed down. Zissou's daily tasks were either to practice martial arts or to see a doctor, especially to see sick elephants and baby elephants in the elephant herd. However, the young male elephants had reached the rebellious stage of growth and were particularly restless, causing trouble everywhere. Zissou felt that this was a typical psychological and mental problem that was difficult to treat with drugs, so only psychotherapy could be used. So, how to use psychotherapy to cure the psychological problems of these young male elephants? This was the first time that Zissou had encountered a difficult problem since he became a magic panda doctor. One day, 2 young male elephants had a dispute over some trivial matter, which eventually led to a duel. Both sides were so anxious that they wanted to stab each other to death with their tusks, which frightened Zissou. So, Zissou rushed forward to separate the 2 pairs of tusks that were about to attack each other, but unfortunately he was too short to reach them. In a hurry, he punched the shoulders of the 2 young male elephants. The 2 punches weighed at least 300 or 400 kilograms, not to mention 500 or 600 kilograms. However, they did not knock down the 2 young male elephants, but only pushed them apart, because the 2 young male elephants weighed 6 or 7 tons, and adult male elephants usually weighed more than 10 tons. Although Zissou's 2 punches did not knock down the 2 male elephants, they hurt them and made them feel that their bones were almost broken by Zissou. They were immediately furious, so they transferred all their anger from the other party to Zissou, turned around and attacked Zissou. Seeing that the situation was not good, Zissou immediately ran away, and the 2 male elephants chased him fiercely. Although Zissou ran fast, the elephants had long legs and big steps, so they ran fast, and gradually closed the distance with Zissou. Seeing that the two male elephants were about to catch up with Zissou, Zissou suddenly found a small forest 100 meters to the left, and immediately turned around and ran towards the forest. Finally, he ran into the forest before the two male elephants were about to catch up with him. After knocking down two large trees, the two male elephants had to stop chasing. 2 days later, the situation was even worse. There were 3 pairs of young male elephants fighting each other, and another 3 young male elephants and several young female elephants were watching the fun. This made Zissou furious. He immediately rushed forward and punched each of the fighting male elephants in the buttocks. Each punch weighed at least 500 to 600 kilograms. Since Zissou's punches this time were much heavier than last time, 2 of the young male elephants were caught off guard and fell to the ground. Zissou had stirred up a hornet's nest. The young male elephants that were not knocked down by him immediately surrounded him in anger and attacked him. Why didn't Zissou run away immediately after hitting the male elephants this time? This was mainly because the physical strength and energy consumed by Zissou's punches this time were several times that of the last time. It was difficult for him to recover his physical strength in a short period of time. He was exhausted and had no strength to run for his life. At this time, 4 young male elephants surrounded him and attacked him, kicking and stepping on him, and even poking him with their tusks, but Zissou had no power to fight back, and he couldn't even run away. There were only a group of spectators watching the fun around him, and the only elephant leader who could come out to stop the fight was not here. It didn't take long for Zissou to be covered in wounds and blood, and his life was in danger. But at the last moment of his life, a young male elephant who loved to cause trouble the most was still not satisfied, and stabbed Zissou's chest with his sharp tusks, killing him. Chapter 544, Elephant Life. From then on, Zissou finally ended his panda career and started his elephant career. His soul then entered the brain of the young male elephant who loved to cause trouble the most, replacing his thinking, consciousness and memory. Until this time, Zissou was still in a confused state. For a while, he could not accept the cruel reality in front of him. After all, he had been a panda for too long, so he thought he was a panda and would die with the pandas, forgetting that he could be resurrected. However, at this moment, a young male elephant next to him shouted, "Oh no, the leader of our tribe is here, everyone run." His shouting immediately made Zissou sober up, knowing that he had now turned into an elephant, and was no longer the now dead panda. However, after the leader of the elephant group came and found that the panda doctor was killed by the male elephants in front of him, he would definitely severely punish or even severely punish the perpetrator of this incident. Then his life would be difficult in the future. For now, the best plan is to run away. Having made up his mind, he turned around and ran away in the opposite direction of the leader of the elephant group. After he got up, he followed the other 3 young male elephants who had caused trouble. From then on, Zissou and these 3 male elephants began a long wandering life. Wandering days are not easy. They suffer from hunger and cold, are displaced, have no fixed home, and have no food to eat. As a result, in less than a month, Zissou and his 4 young, reckless and ignorant male elephants became skinny, with dry fur and no luster. They were all listless, depressed and decadent. Zissou felt that this would not work and would definitely be ruined. So he and his other 3 partners discussed that they must have a fixed home of their own. If they really couldn't find one, they would have to rob others. Facts have proved that it is indeed difficult for the 4 of them to find a habitat that is suitable for elephants to survive and where no other elephants live in the foreseeable future. In fact, they wanted to find such a place in the past month, but they could not do it. Now it seems that the only way to solve this problem is through force. However, with their current combat power, they can only find the weakest elephant tribe to attack. A few days later, they found a very weak elephant group, which consisted of 13 elephants, including 2 male elephants, 1 strong and 1 old, 5 female elephants, 4 young and 1 strong, and 6 young elephants, 4 females and 2 males. Obviously, the strong male elephant must be the elephant king, and the old male elephant is the elephant king's companion or assistant. The 5 female elephants must be the elephant king's wives and concubines, and the 6 young elephants are naturally their children. Now for the 4 young male elephants of Zissou, they only need to defeat and drive away the 2 male elephants, 1 old and 1 strong. According to the fighting tradition in the elephant group, those female elephants and young elephants will not participate in such battles. So, How to formulate a battle plan. Obviously, now Zissou and his team are in extremely poor physical condition. Even if they fight 2 against 1, it is difficult to defeat the strong and healthy opponent who is waiting for the opportunity. Direct attack is obviously not feasible. Then they can only outsmart them. This is the only way. How to outsmart it? This is another headache for Zissou. In the first 2 days, Zissou took several brothers to scout around the habitat of the elephant tribe and explore the terrain. Although the elephant herd is not large, it occupies about 700 to 800 hectares of high-quality land. There are trees, grass, water, and many kinds of plants that elephants love to eat. This makes the nearby elephants salivate, but the nearby elephants are only slightly stronger than this herd, and they are not united and cannot unite to face the outside world. Therefore, the territory of the elephant tribe has been preserved. Now that Zissou and his friends have set their eyes on this place, they naturally have to plan it well. Zissou carefully surveyed the surroundings of this precious land and found that one side is backed by a mountain, one side is backed by a river, and the other 2 sides are bordered by other elephant herds. According to this situation, he can only think of a way on the side backed by the mountain. Soon, he found the best ambush position. There was a 3-way intersection at a fork in the jungle. There was a road towards the elephant herd's treasure land, and 2 roads outside. On the branch road to the left, there was another fork after walking for more than 10 meters. Zissou set up an ambush at this fork. The 4 elephants used their trunks to dig a 1.5 meter deep earth pit in the middle, and then covered a 2 meter wide and 3 meter long earth pit with branches, weeds and soil. In the case of weak light, it was almost impossible to see any problems. After everything was ready, the young male elephant, who seemed the weakest, skinny, and the shortest among the 4 brothers, went to the place where the plants grew most luxuriantly and the elephants appeared most frequently in the habitat of the elephant herd, and blatantly stole other people's treasure plants to lure the elephant king to chase. Sure enough, in the evening, the elephant king saw a skinny young male elephant who appeared from nowhere and dared to steal his delicious food in his territory. He couldn't help but get furious and immediately chased after him. However, when the young male elephant saw the elephant king chasing him, he immediately turned around and ran away. After a while, the 2 of them came to the first fork in the road, and saw that the troublemaking male elephant turned around and fled to the left road. After running more than 10 meters, he immediately ran to the right of the second fork in the road. At this time, the chasing elephant king just turned the first fork in the road and followed closely into the left road. Seeing that the thief was gone, he couldn't help but be furious. He ran over to search for him desperately. He didn't pay attention to his feet, and with a plop, he fell into the trap dug by Zissou and others in advance. At this moment, the 4 male elephants, including Zissou, who were lying in ambush all around, rushed out immediately, and each used their tusks to attack the vital parts of the elephant king's body, making the elephant king in great pain and unable to fight back. He could only howl constantly, because the 4 young male elephants were on both sides and behind the elephant king's body instead of in front of him. What was even more fatal was that after the elephant king fell into the earth pit, his body was half shorter. Even if the elephant king wanted to attack, he could only attack the opponent's legs and not the opponent's vital parts, because the high ground was not enough. In a blink of an eye, the strong elephant king was killed by the 8 tusks of the 4 skinny male elephants, and his body was bruised and battered, and he was in danger. Suddenly, something unexpected happened. From the side, an old male elephant suddenly rushed out, and he used his 2 weather tusks to stab the heart of one of Zissou's brothers from the side. Not long after, this brother was dying. Seeing this, Zissou and other brothers could not help but get angry. They immediately gave up the elephant king and turned to besiege the old male elephant. At this time, the old male elephant had been running for a long time and attacking a young male elephant non-stop. He was already exhausted and sweating. How could he have the energy to deal with a joint attack of 3 young male elephants? He was quickly killed by Zissou and other 3 brothers. Soon, the elephant king also died. No mistakes. Although the 4 brothers became 3 brothers, they finally won a piece of elephant habitat. The next step is to distribute wives. There are a total of 5 female elephants. One of the older female elephants can be discarded. In the end, each brother gets a wife, and the extra one is naturally awarded to their leader Zissou. Just when everyone was looking forward to a better future, Zissou received the same order as Susan. Chapter 545, Domineering or Leaked. After hearing what Feifei said, The fallen lioness couldn't help but bow her head in thought and remain silent. The lioness who was talking to Feifei said to her, "Get up quickly and go back with me. Don't stay here and embarrass yourself." The fallen lioness quickly got up and walked away with the other lionesses in a dusty face. After this incident, Feifei's chivalrous act of protecting the weak spread among herbivores such as cattle, sheep, deer and roe deer. Gradually, more and more vulnerable groups came to Feifei for shelter, and for a while, Feifei was so busy that she couldn't handle it. So much so that now, no matter where Feifei goes, there will be a large group of herbivores such as cattle, sheep, deer and roe deer following her, almost to the point of being surrounded by stars. Over time, when those carnivores heard that Feifei was coming, they immediately rolled away, as if they were avoiding the plague god. In this way, Feifei took the fox Daoshan along the river bank, downstream, towards the sea. Many large and small herbivores followed behind them. Along the way, more cattle, sheep, red deer, roe deer, etc. came to join in, forming a mighty torrent, which rolled bigger and bigger, rolling forward. This is simply a grand spectacle of the animal world and nature, unheard of and rare in the world. In addition, a strange thing happened in some places. Whenever Feifei, the lightning warrior, passed by, the carnivores all chose to eat vegetarian food or fast for a day to express their worship and admiration for the lightning warrior. If any carnivore did not take it seriously or ate meat as usual, it would be despised and condemned by its own kind, and even beaten up by everyone. It can be said that Feifei at this time was really infinitely glorious and stole the limelight. Unfortunately, flowers don't last forever, people don't stay happy forever, and there are unexpected changes in the weather. On this day, the sun was shining brightly in the morning, but in the afternoon, it was covered with dark clouds, followed by thunder and lightning, and heavy rain for 3 consecutive days and nights, causing the river to surge and flood. Feifei's grand parade team was also washed away by the heavy rain and flood, and was in pieces, and no longer existed. Feifei was also washed away by the flood for thousands of miles, and she drifted to the sea with the flood, and unexpectedly met a mermaid on the seashore. This was a very beautiful mermaid with perfect facial features. She sat on a big rock by the sea, looking at the sea with melancholy and affectionate eyes. Not long after, suddenly, another mermaid emerged from the sea. Feifei took a closer look and found that the mermaid that just emerged from the water was actually a male, and should be called a male mermaid. She heard the male mermaid say to the mermaid sitting on the big rock, "Princess Ziki, why did you leave the palace again and swim to the west coast? Your father and mother will be worried about you running away from the palace." Unexpectedly, the mermaid Princess Ziki said disapprovingly, "Master Xiaoan, you don't need to worry about my affairs. You should take care of your own affairs first." The male mermaid Master Xiaoan said with a grin, "How can this be called worrying? Don't forget, you were betrothed to me by your father since you were a child. You are my wife-to-be. Your affairs are my affairs. How can I not care about your safety?" The mermaid Princess Ziki said unmoved, "How can what my father said when I was very young count? Maybe he was joking, who knows? As long as he doesn't mention it now, it doesn't count." Upon hearing this, Prince Xiaoan said angrily, You are cheating and quibbling. I will go ask your father." Princess Ziki laughed and said, "Go ahead, ask quickly. My father will never force me without my consent. Because my father loves me the most." Prince Xiaoan's eyes turned red with anxiety. "I don't believe it. I will go ask your father right now." As soon as he finished speaking, he turned around and sank into the sea, but not long after, he popped up again. Princess Ziki asked curiously, "Why did you ask my father so soon? What did my father say?" Unexpectedly, Master Xiaoan smiled and said, "I didn't go at all. It's not that I didn't dare to go, but I want to stay here to protect you. I almost fell for your trick just now. Now, no matter what you say, I won't leave you." Princess Ziki blushed and scolded, "How can you be so shameless and cling to me shamelessly? Get out, don't stay here, I don't want to see you." Master Xiaoan said calmly, "Princess Ziki, don't be so heartless. I have done something wrong and offended you. Can't I change?" Princess Ziki persisted and said, "You can change or not. It's none of my business anyway. I don't like you." "Do you understand?" Master Xiaoan asked puzzledly. Why? Why is that? When we were young, we didn't play together often. How could we have a good time? That's really childhood, sweethearts." Princess Ziki immediately retorted, "Master Xiaoan, you are so shameless. You have been domineering and overbearing since you were a child, and you often bully me. Do you think I will forget it? Master Xiaowan pretended to be innocent and defended. Is that the case? Why don't I remember it? Maybe you remembered it wrongly, Princess Ziki said bluntly. Don't be hypocritical. You have been domineering and overbearing since you were a child, and you still force others to do things when you grow up. It's really like it's easy to change the country but difficult to change one's nature. No mistakes in the poem. Post, content, 1 post, 1619, book, forum, take a look. Master Xiaowan argued speciously, I know this is an excuse you deliberately made up because you don't like me. Princess Ziki, you really have to believe me. I have liked and loved you since I was a child. The heaven and earth can bear witness to this. Princess Ziki sneered. Master Xiaowan, stop acting here. Do you think I don't know that you don't like me at all, but my family background, my status and my wealth? You liar, such a villain. Master Xiaowan became angry and said, since you are so ruthless, don't blame me for being disloyal. Where is the octopus guard? Capture Princess Ziki back to me. As soon as the words fell, a huge purple octopus emerged from the sea, and immediately stretched out 3 long tentacles, tightly entangled Princess Ziki's body, ready to drag the mermaid into the sea. At this moment, Feifei, who was 7 or 8 meters away from the coast, immediately ran over here. A turtle can't run as fast as a dog, shouting as he ran, stop. Stop it. The mermaid, the male mermaid and the octopus all turned their heads in surprise and looked at the big turtle crawling quickly from the shore. They didn't know what was going on and were stunned. When Feifei crawled closer, the male mermaid Xiaowan Guangzi asked in confusion, hey, where did you come from? What are you yelling? What do you want to do? Feifei said in a tough tone, it doesn't matter where I came from. What matters now is that I want to uphold justice for this beautiful mermaid. Please let go of this mermaid and respect her free choice. Chapter 546 Octopus Life. Upon hearing this, Master Xiaowan was immediately furious and said angrily, oh, you monster from the land actually cares about us creatures in the sea. It seems that you are tired of living. Come on, fish, drag this ignorant guy into the sea and drown him alive. As soon as he finished speaking, a huge purple octopus jumped out of the sea. It swiftly stretched out several long tentacles, tightly wrapped around Feifei's whole body, and threw it into the sea without any reason. In the blink of an eye, it dragged Feifei's lower body into the sea. At this time, Feifei was anxious, and stretched out his front paws desperately, wanting to use his classic blue dazzling arc lightning to electrocute the annoying octopus. Suddenly, he thought that seawater is easier to conduct electricity than fresh water, because seawater is full of salt, and salt water is an electrolyte, which is the easiest to conduct electricity. But at this time, the mermaid lady he wanted to rescue was entangled by another wet octopus, and most of the body of the octopus was soaked in seawater. Now the 2 octopuses were too close, only 2 or 3 meters away. If Feifei used lightning to electrocute the octopus that was entangled with him, it was very likely that the strong current generated by the electric shock would be transmitted to the mermaid and hurt her, which was something Feifei was very reluctant to see. Therefore, Feifei gave up the electric shock to defend himself, but without the self-defense method of electric shock, Feifei became a lamb to be slaughtered. In front of the big octopus, he had no power to fight back. In a blink of an eye, he was dragged into the water by the big octopus. Unexpectedly, this coastline was actually a steep slope, and they soon entered deep water. The giant octopus dragged Feifei and sank rapidly, 5 meters, 15 meters, 30 meters, 50 meters, 100 meters. Feifei soon felt that breathing was becoming more and more difficult, and his whole body was becoming more and more uncomfortable. After all, freshwater turtles are not sea turtles. They cannot survive in the sea and will soon die. Feifei's mind was getting more and more blurred. He desperately used the last bit of consciousness he had left, exerted his last bit of strength, stretched out his right front paw, and prepared to kill the damned giant octopus with lightning. But at this time, the octopus wrapped Feifei tighter. Suddenly, the octopus used its huge parrot-like bony beak to fiercely pierce Feifei's turtle head. A second before Feifei was about to send out lightning, Feifei immediately lost consciousness. Feifei's life was gradually fading away. His soul flew out and entered the head of the giant octopus that killed him. The scientists on this alien planet were really amazing. They actually let the soul tracking capture and transplantation instrument dive into the seabed to perform soul transplantation, turning Feifei from a giant turtle into a giant octopus again. The last time Feifei was reborn as a giant turtle, he was active and happy, but this time he was reborn as a giant octopus, he was passive and angry. Therefore, in a rage, he wiped out the original soul of the giant octopus and its consciousness and memory, leaving nothing behind. After a while, Feifei suddenly thought of the mermaid and wondered how she was doing now. Then, he hurriedly swam to the surface of the sea. After rising to the surface of the sea, he found that he was still several hundred meters away from the west coast, so he hurriedly swam to the west coast again. When he swam to the west coast and found the big rock where the mermaid had just sat, there was no trace of the mermaid, and even the male mermaid and the big octopus disappeared. Only shells and crabs on the seashore were left. At this time, Feifei felt extremely empty and helpless, and couldn't help but sighed, "When will my fate, which is full of disasters and unpredictable, end?" As Feifei's stomach growled, he felt a little hungry and muttered in his heart, "I am now a sea creature. I can't stay on the shore and land for long, otherwise I will die. If I don't want to become a small life like a shell or a crab, I'd better go back to the bottom of the sea as soon as possible." With a determined mind, Feifei the giant octopus had to quickly swim back to the sea and continue to sink deeper. While sinking, he thought, "Where should I go to find food? What kind of food does the giant octopus usually like to eat? Wow, was I too reckless just now? I wiped out all the consciousness and memory of the original owner of the octopus with such anger. Isn't this asking for trouble? Now I don't even know what the octopus likes to eat, nor do I know where it usually lives, let alone whether it knows where the mermaid lives. Oh, what a sin." But when Feifei was blaming himself, he suddenly turned his head and saw several large sharks swimming to his left about 100 meters away. A strong sense of crisis suddenly filled his body, making his breathing quicken. He sank quickly without thinking, sinking as fast as he could. What surprised him was that the deeper he sank, the safer and more comfortable he felt. When he sank to a place with milky rocks and lush seaweed on the seabed, his heart relaxed involuntarily, and he even enjoyed this strange feeling he had never experienced before. Could this be my home, or a place I often come to play? If so, there must be something here that I, as an octopus, like to eat, Feifei thought happily. Soon, Feifei discovered that there were many colorful marine fish in the seaweed. Most of them were about the same size as freshwater grass carp and carp on the mainland, usually between half a meter and 1 meter. When Feifei saw them, he had a strong appetite and was salivating. He immediately stretched out his 2 tentacles and caught a random sea fish to taste. Of course, he didn't need to stretch out all his 8 tentacles to deal with these small lives at this time. Only when he was desperate or dealing with an enemy fish that was several times larger than his body, the octopus would stretch out all his tentacles to give it a try. Because there were many hemispherical dome-like suction cups in the octopus's tentacles, he quickly sucked a marine fish with his suction cups, and then he couldn't wait to roll up the marine fish and put it into his huge bony mouth that looked like a parrot's beak. The octopus's bony tongue has several rows of sharp teeth, which can be rolled up like a razor to cut off a large piece of food in one go. Feifei quickly learned the living habits of an octopus and ate the first sea fish that came to him. He naturally went to hunt for the next fish after tasting the taste. After eating 4 or 5 sea fish, he felt that his stomach was just full. Feifei didn't know if the big octopus usually had such a big appetite, but since there was a lot of food here, he didn't worry about being hungry in the future. The problem of eating was solved, and there was also the problem of survival. The problem was whether living here would be dangerous, mainly to say, whether there would be natural enemies coming to cause trouble. In fact, he now knew that the big shark must be one of his natural enemies. He had already experienced the strong sense of crisis brought to him by the big shark in the sea. No mistakes, 1 post, 1 content, 1 book, 1 forum, 1619. In fact, Feifei doesn't know that in the underwater world, electric eels, sea snakes and manta rays are also deadly dangers to octopuses. He will gradually realize this in the future. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 547, Undersea Adventure. Since Feifei was forced to reincarnate as an octopus, he has spent most of his time living on the seabed, because he was afraid that when he went up to the surface to play, he would encounter the terrible shark on the way. Does it mean that there is no danger in the seabed? Obviously not. On this day, Feifei the octopus was playing a game of hide-and-seek with a sea turtle Mimon. Here is a question: how did Feifei know Mimon? It turned out that once, Feifei felt a little hungry, so he stretched his long tentacles into the deep sea to search for something to eat. Who knew that he accidentally hit the mark and happened to touch a half-meter-long sea fish? This sea fish was really unlucky. Just when he wanted to get into the deep sea to find some small fish and shrimp to eat, he was sucked by the suction cups on the octopus's tentacles and immediately became the octopus's food, losing his life. Seeing that he had caught a rabbit by catching grass as soon as his tentacle went down, he caught a sheep by chance, and was immediately successful. Feifei immediately became interested. However, then, he took turns to put all his 8 tentacles into the seaweed and searched many times, but he got almost nothing. At most, he caught some small fish and shrimps, which made him very frustrated. He changed to another place, and fished in another place covered with deep seaweed, but still had no harvest. Finally, he actually fished out a big turtle. When the big turtle saw that a big octopus had caught it, it immediately screamed, "What are you doing? You damn big octopus, you are lawless, what on earth do you want to do?" Feifei was stunned when he saw that he had fished out a big turtle. This big turtle was a bit familiar to his previous life, the big turtle, so sympathy overflowed, and he couldn't help but said amiably, "Tell me, what's your name, and I will let you go." The big turtle was stunned when he heard it, and said, "You have to keep your word, my name is Misty. Can you let me go now?" Feifei quickly let go of the big turtle and apologized to it, saying, "I'm sorry, I didn't know you were hiding in this deep seaweed. I didn't mean to catch you, and I don't want to eat you." Unexpectedly, the big turtle sneered disdainfully and said, "Tisk, I have such a hard shell. Even if you want to eat me, can you eat me? Aren't you ashamed to brag?" Feifei hurriedly explained, "Whether I can eat you or not, I don't want to eat you, because I usually only eat fish." Unexpectedly, the big turtle said unreasonably, "Of course you can only eat fish. Everyone knows that you stinky octopuses only dare to bully those fish that don't have hard shells and have no means of self-defense, but you can't do anything about us turtles. We can only sigh." Feifei was blushing at the sharp and ruthless words of the big turtle. He wanted to lose his temper on the spot, but suddenly thought, the other party didn't say anything wrong, why should he be angry? Then, he calmed down and said to the turtle calmly, "Mimon, you are right, I accept your opinion. You see, since I can't bully you, you can't bully me, and we are both lonely, and we both need 1 or 2 friends. Otherwise, let's make friends. What do you think? My name is Feifei." Unexpectedly, the big octopus in front of him would be so amiable, which surprised and touched the big turtle Mimon. Because Mimon himself was also very lonely and had almost no friends, he agreed to make friends with Feifei. In this way, from then on, Feifei played and lived with a big turtle Mimon. Although Feifei and Mimon were both males, they were as good brothers who wore the same pants and often followed each other closely. One day, Feifei and Mimon were playing hide-and-seek in a deep seagrass area. Suddenly, a guy who looked a bit like a hairtail swam over from somewhere. At this time, Feifei was playing too hard and felt a little hungry, so he stretched out a tentacle and tried to catch the hairtail. However, Mimon shouted, "Stop it, you must not do that." Feifei immediately stopped and retracted his tentacles, asking in confusion, "What? Why?" Mimon explained, "This kind of sea fish is called electric eel, which releases very strong high-voltage electricity. Do you want to die?" Feifei was shocked when he heard that this guy was an electric eel. He naturally knew the power of electric shock from electric eels, because he was known as the lightning hero in his previous life. He deeply understood the ruthlessness of electric shock. He couldn't help but sigh and said, "Alice, I was the ancestor of electric shock in my previous life, but I was scared by this little electric eel in this life. I never thought that I would be so miserable." Just as Feifei was sighing, he saw the electric eel hiding itself in the milk rock cave. When a passing sea fish passed by the cave entrance, it suddenly attacked the passing fish with a lightning of light blue arc light, electrocuted it to death, and then ate its meat. In addition to encountering electric eels, Feifei also encountered sea snakes. He knew that the toxicity of sea snakes was greater than that of cobras on land, so he naturally did not dare to provoke them. He avoided them from a distance and walked as far as he could. On this day, suddenly, a huge underwater manta ray came. When he heard the name of manta ray, he knew he couldn't afford to provoke it, So he immediately hid in the rock cave and dared not come out. What he never expected was that the sea turtle Mimin also hid in the deep seaweed and did not move. Afterwards, he asked Mimin what was going on. Mimin explained that the teeth of the manta ray were very sharp. Not to mention the turtle shell, even the big rocks could be bitten. Therefore, he was afraid that he would anger the manta ray and lose his life if he was not careful. That was not worth it. Therefore, in nature, even in the seabed, there are risks. It can be said that there are dangers everywhere, so be careful everywhere, no mistakes. However, in most cases, as a big octopus, Feifei feels quite comfortable and interesting living in the underwater world. On this day, the sea turtle Mimeng took Feifei away from the original place and came to another beautiful place dozens of miles away to enjoy the scenery and forage for food. Here, there are not only fish, shrimps, crabs and shellfish that Feifei often sees, but also some underwater creatures that he has never seen, including animals and plants. What surprised him most was that he actually met a mermaid. Of course, it was impossible for him to meet the mermaid Princess Ziki who he saw at the beach last time, but two other mermaids. These two mermaids were also very young and beautiful. As soon as she saw the two of them, Feifei couldn't help but swim up to them and say hello. Hi, beautiful mermaids, hello. Excuse me, is there anything I can do for you? The two mermaids were stunned when they saw Feifei's enthusiasm. Then, one of the mermaids said, Hi, hello. If you don't have anything to do, why don't you be our waiter? Chapter 548, Mermaid Bodyguard. Okay. No problem, Feifei answered readily. In this way, the two mermaid ladies hired Feifei, the big octopus, as their waiter for free. And Feifei also served the two mermaids wholeheartedly, such as catching all kinds of fish and shrimp for them, and escorting them to protect them from attacks and harm from enemies. In addition, she also chatted with them, made fun of them, and became their happy fruit. How could this be a waiter? She became their bodyguard and nanny. The big turtle laughed at Feifei for being a cheap bone and a lecher. In fact, he didn't know that Feifei had other intentions. Feifei's purpose was to find the mermaid Princess Ziki last time through these two mermaids, and then explore the secrets of the mermaid palace through Princess Ziki. He always thought that the mermaid palace was very different from the palace of ancient humans and the underwater dragon palace in mythology, and he thought it was very mysterious and interesting. When Feifei finished serving the two mermaids and was about to say goodbye to them, he suddenly asked, Do you need a bodyguard or guard or something? The elder sister of the two mermaids said, Of course we do. Do you want to be our bodyguard? Feifei asked again, Do you think I am suitable? The elder sister of the two mermaids said happily, Very suitable. We really don't know if we have this honor? Feifei immediately said, I am very willing to serve the two beautiful mermaids. The elder sister of the two mermaids said happily, Then from today on, we will officially hire you as our bodyguard for a period of 1 year. From now on, you have to follow us closely. Without our order, you must not leave us for a moment. Can you do it? Feifei immediately said, I promise to do it. The elder sister of the two mermaids said again, I forgot to ask, what is your name? Feifei replied, My name is Feifei. But how should I address you two? The elder mermaid said, My name is Yurinmei, and my younger mermaid is Yurinao. You are allowed to call us by our names. Feifei thought for a moment and said, Two mermaid sisters, could you allow me to say goodbye to my best friend, the big turtle Mimin, and then follow you to do things? The elder mermaid said, Then let us go with you to meet your good friend. Afterwards, Feifei brought the two mermaid ladies to the place where he and the big turtle Mimin lived. When he saw Mimin, he told Mimin that he was going to be their bodyguard for a year. Unexpectedly, Mimin was very puzzled by Feifei's behavior, and laughed at Feifei for being a fool, an idiot and a lustful person, which made Feifei unable to raise her head. Feifei was too lazy to explain to him, and just said, You will understand what I mean in the future. Please take care of yourself. Goodbye, friend. After that, she followed the two mermaids and started a new life as a bodyguard from then on. He and the two mermaid sisters had not walked a few miles when they encountered a manta ray. He hurriedly pulled the two mermaids into the dense and dark seaweed to hide them and escaped. When they passed a section of milky rock area without seaweed, suddenly, a black and white sea snake appeared and pounced on Feifei and the other two. Feifei was immediately frightened and hurriedly stuffed the two mermaid sisters into a medium-sized rock cave nearby. She guarded the cave entrance and grabbed a medium-sized rock with almost every tentacle among her 8 tentacles. As soon as the sea snake approached the rock cave entrance, she swung the stones in her tentacles and threw them at the sea snake like hail. Moreover, the tentacles that had thrown the stones would immediately pick up another stone from the ground and then throw more. Due to the large resistance of the seawater under the sea, the speed of the thrown stones is not very fast and the lethality is relatively limited. However, despite this, such dense stone blocking has more or less injured the sea snake. The sea snake saw that it had no chance to get into the hole to kill the mermaid. The duck that was about to reach its mouth could not be eaten. This made the sea snake both angry and helpless. In the end, it had to give up the pursuit of the mermaid and slipped away in frustration. With the experience of throwing stones to block the attack of sea snakes, from then on, whenever Feifei encountered difficult guys such as sea snakes and electric eels, he would take this approach to protect the two mermaid sisters. However, if there were no stones to pick up in the seaweed area, this would give Feifei a headache. How would he protect them? For a moment, Feifei was at a loss as to what to do and asked the elder sister of the two mermaid sisters, Yurinmei, when you encounter sea snakes or electric eels in the past, is there any other way besides hiding? The mermaid Yurinmei thought about it carefully and said, generally speaking, we don't encounter sea snakes or electric eels very often. Apart from hiding, we really don't have much to do. Feifei asked a little confused, don't sea snakes and electric eels want to attack you? The mermaid Yurinmei quickly explained, of course not, didn't you also see a sea snake trying to kill us? What I mean is that their food is definitely not us, because I rarely hear that a mermaid family is often attacked by sea snakes and electric eels, except for accidental incidents. I think they will only attack us unless they are extremely hungry and can't find other food. You don't have to be too nervous for us. Under normal circumstances, we don't have to be too scared when we meet them. Just try to avoid them. No mistakes in one poem, one post, one content, one book, one forum. After hearing what Yurinmei said, Feifei was relieved a little. However, as a bodyguard, he dared not take it lightly. He always observed whether there were new dangers and potential crises around him, and strived to be a qualified bodyguard. In this way, Feifei guarded the mermaid sisters back to their home with trepidation. There were large earth mounds everywhere, which looked like large tombs. The only difference from the tombs was that each earth mound was embedded with a luminous body, and this luminous body looked like a night pearl. I don't know what happened, but as soon as the two mermaids approached the mound automatically revealed a hole, which was a bit like the modern automatic door of our earthlings. After the two mermaids went in, Feifei followed them in. The further they went in, the larger the space inside felt. Finally, Feifei followed them to a large living room, where several mermaids and male mermaids were sitting on stone chairs, whispering to each other. When they saw the Yurinmei sisters coming in, they all raised their heads and looked at them and Feifei behind them. One of the mermaids stared at Feifei with wide eyes, and then asked Yurinmei, "Why did you two bring a big octopus home?" Yurinmei said proudly, "What big octopus? His name is Feifei, and he is now our sister's personal bodyguard for a 1-year contract. Are you jealous?" Chapter 549 Causing Trouble. What? You two are neither nobles nor from any big families, how can you afford bodyguards? Are you making fun of my poverty? The mermaid didn't believe it. Who is making fun of your poverty? I don't have the time to do that. Feifei is our bodyguard for free, without any payment. If you don't believe me, go ask him, Yurinmei said proudly. Ah, how could this be? How did you two get so lucky? The mermaid asked in disbelief. So, Yurinmei told her the whole story one by one, which made her envious and jealous, and even the other mermaids around her felt the same way. Among them, a male mermaid boy was the most unbalanced. Since his family conditions were much better than Yurinmei's, he came to Yurinmei's house today with a few playmates. After hearing what she said, he felt surprised and envious. You know, his family conditions were much better than hers, and they couldn't even afford a bodyguard. Now that he saw that she actually hired a bodyguard who looked neither stupid nor dumb, he was naturally envious and jealous. Feifei smiled and said to the male mermaid, in fact, you can also go out and find an octopus to be your bodyguard. With your good looks, I think it should not be difficult. The male mermaid heard it and immediately became confident and said with a smile, in that case, please introduce one to me. Feifei was stunned, and then said with a sad face, what a pity. I am not very sociable. I always do my own thing and keep to myself, so it is difficult for me to help you. The male mermaid immediately said with a frown, you, the octopus, are making fun of me. No, I am just discussing and analyzing this matter from my own perspective. I don't mean to make fun of you, young master. As long as you go out and look for it carefully, who dares to say that you will not find it, Feifei explained. Yes, what you said makes sense. With my current conditions, I don't believe that I can't find a bodyguard. Humph, the male mermaid said unconvinced. That's right, your family is much better off than them, you can definitely find a bodyguard. One of the playmates of the young master took the opportunity to agree. Yes, otherwise, let's go out and find an octopus bodyguard to play with. Another playmate also joined in. What are we waiting for? Let's go now. As soon as the voice fell, the young master took his playmates away and swam outside. A few days ago, Feifei was playing with his sisters Unimaginable at their home. Suddenly, the young master's parents and a group of mermaids broke into the house of the sisters Unimaginable and cried and said they wanted to settle accounts with him and Feifei. The mermaid Unimaginable asked, and it turned out that yesterday, the young man brought a group of his playmates to find an octopus to be their bodyguard. They came to a place where octopuses frequently appeared, and happened to see two big octopuses playing there, so the young man foolishly stepped forward and asked directly, "Hey, big octopus, are you willing to be my free bodyguard?" Unexpectedly, when the big octopus heard it, he immediately got angry and laughed. "Boy, what's wrong with you today? Don't talk about bullshit free bodyguards. Even if you hire me to be your bodyguard with a high salary, I'm too lazy to go. I don't have the time to hang around with you." The young man was not discouraged, and said, "I promise that you will eat and drink well with me." But the big octopus was no longer willing to pay attention to him. Later, the young man went to ask the big octopus's companions, but was also rejected. After the blow, the young man still did not lose heart, and went to look for it in other places. Hard work pays off, and finally he found a male giant octopus that had been heartbroken. This giant octopus was not demanding, and was satisfied as long as he could eat enough every day. This made the young man very happy, so he took this contented giant octopus from village to village, showing off everywhere, and even traveled to faraway places. However, this male giant octopus was a timid and irresponsible guy. It happened that one time, when they were playing in a distance, tens of miles away from their home, they encountered a huge manta ray. The big octopus was so scared that it left the young man alone and ran away. As a result, the young man was killed by the manta ray. In this way, the young master's family blamed Feifei, the octopus bodyguard of Unimaginable, and also blamed the sisters Unimaginable and Unimaginable for not hiring a bodyguard, which caused their young master to die. In fact, Feifei is a little to blame, but the mermaid sisters should not be blamed. This was purely caused by Feifei's desire to be the bodyguard of the Unimaginable sisters, which aroused the young master's jealousy. Most of the responsibility should be borne by the young master himself. However, the young master's family took advantage of their power and were unreasonable. They wanted to arrest the Unimaginable sisters and take them to the authorities for questioning without any explanation. Feifei, as a bodyguard, naturally stepped forward to stop them. However, the master of this family got two seals from somewhere and wanted to attack Feifei. Feifei hurriedly fought back in self-defense, wrapping 3 tentacles on each side to wrap around the seal, making them unable to move, and then used the last 2 to support her body. Then, Feifei waved his tentacles violently and threw the 2 seals out one after another. After the 2 seals landed on the ground, they immediately fainted. Seeing this, the family of the young master immediately shouted, "Rebellion, rebellion, lawlessness, no king's law." Feifei said to them calmly, "Come at me if you have any ability. I won't allow you to harass Unimaginable family again. Get out now, otherwise I will throw you out one by one. No mistakes in one sentence, one post, one content, 1-6, 1-9, one book, one bar." Seeing the fierce and evil look of the big octopus Feifei, the family of the young master immediately ran away like a deflated ball. After that, although the family of the young master wanted to make trouble again, they did not have the solid evidence that the Unimaginable sisters framed the young master, and finally the matter was left unresolved. However, they hated Feifei, the octopus bodyguard, and never forgot to take revenge on Feifei. Not long after, they found a male mermaid wizard who raised sea snakes through some unknown relationship. They spent a lot of money to invite this wizard and planned to find an opportunity to attack Feifei and the sisters Unimaginable. On this day, Feifei accompanied the sisters Unimaginable to play and came to a beautiful and prosperous place. There were many large and small underwater animals and plants, and a bustling scene. While enjoying the fun, the sisters suddenly felt a little hungry. So they asked Feifei to catch some small fish and shrimps for them to eat. Feifei readily agreed and immediately began to catch fish and shrimps with his sensitive and powerful tentacles. But just when Feifei was concentrating on catching fish and shrimps not far away, a 3-meter-long sea snake was quietly approaching the sisters unimaginable, and an unexpected crisis was about to happen. Chapter 550, Reincarnation of a Mermaid. At this moment, a 2-meter-long fish happened to pass by the sea snake and unexpectedly collided with the sea snake, causing the sea snake to bounce up from the seaweed involuntarily and was discovered by Feifei, who turned his head. Feifei suddenly felt that something was very wrong and immediately dropped the work in his hands. He jumped into the fire without hesitation and pounced on the sea snake, wrapping the sea snake tightly with his 8 tentacles, leaving almost no gaps. Seeing that the sea snake was about to be strangled to death by Feifei's big octopus, unexpectedly, another sea snake suddenly jumped out from the oblique spikes deep in the seaweed, and bit Feifei, the big octopus who was killing the first sea snake, on the neck. The extremely poisonous sea snake venom quickly entered Feifei's body, and Feifei soon felt difficulty breathing, and his whole body was in pain and numbness. When his life was about to end, he suddenly found the figure of the male mermaid Xiaoan Guangzi not far away, so he shouted, "Xiaoan Guangzi." The male mermaid Xiaoan Guangzi was feeling bored that day, and he happened to come to this bustling area to play with a big octopus. His big octopus used to be the best brother of Feifei. Today, he suddenly met his good brother who had disappeared for many days. He was ecstatic and immediately swam over to ask Feifei where he had been recently. However, he found that Feifei was catching a sea snake, and now another sea snake was found to bite Feifei. The big octopus couldn't help but get furious, and immediately rushed up recklessly, and used his tentacles to tightly wrap around the 7 inches and other parts of the body of the sea snake that attacked Feifei, and soon strangled the sea snake to death. At this time, Feifei's life was gradually fading away. His soul was supposed to enter the head of the sea snake that bit him to death, but the sea snake died almost at the same time as him. Feifei's last words before he died were "Xiaoan Guangzi." So the soul capture and transplantation instrument that was always tracking Feifei found the male mermaid Xiaoan Guangzi at the scene of the accident based on this sentence, and transplanted Feifei's soul into Xiaoan Guangzi's brain without any explanation. In the blink of an eye, Feifei was reborn as a male mermaid Xiaoan Guangzi, bidding farewell to the life of the giant octopus. Now Feifei is Xiaoan Guangzi, and Xiaoan Guangzi is Feifei, so Feifei said to the giant octopus that had just bitten the sea snake to death, "Take me to Princess Zixi's house." "Good move, I'll take you there right away," the giant octopus replied. A few hours later, the giant octopus brought the male mermaid Feifei to a fascinating underwater world, with dazzling stars everywhere, as if you were in the starry universe, which made you marvel. Naturally, these objects emitting charming starlight are actually night pearls or other luminous bodies under the sea. It seems that the richer and more powerful the mermaid family is, the larger their family living area is, and the more luminous bodies are used for outdoor decoration. The mermaid palace where the princess lives is naturally magnificent, which makes people feel a little bit unreasonable. This is just from the outside. If you go in and see it, and you are not stunned, you have come to the wrong place. Soon, the big octopus used his tentacles to press on a very inconspicuous place. Suddenly, a door slowly slid open, revealing a square underwater cave 1.8 meters wide and 2.5 meters high. A dazzling golden light emanated from the cave. At this moment, suddenly, a big octopus jumped out of the cave and shouted at Feifei, "Mr. Xiaoan, why do you always like to run here when you have nothing to do? My princess doesn't like you, so please go back." What the octopus guard didn't expect was that Feifei said to him, "Please tell Princess Ziki that I, Mr. Xiaoan, will never disturb her again. Please let her live the life she wants happily. However, if she encounters any trouble in the future and needs my help, she can come to me at any time. I am very happy to help her." As soon as he finished speaking, he hurriedly left with his octopus bodyguard. On the way back, Feifei suddenly asked the bodyguard octopus beside him, "Where should we go to play now?" The octopus bodyguard said, "Usually, most young masters like to go to young Master Bikiu's house and ask young Master Bikiu to go to Cape Dewang on the west coast for fun." Feifei said readily, "You lead the way and go to young Master Bikiu's house. We'll go and ask him to go to Cape Dewang on the west coast for fun." Just like that, The octopus bodyguard quickly took Feifei to young Master Bikyu's house, met young Master Bikyu, and then asked him to go to Cape Dewang on the west coast for fun. Young Master Bikyu readily agreed, and immediately brought his octopus bodyguard and swam towards the sea with Feifei. Not long after, they came to the Dewang Cape where they often came in the past. Here they stared blankly at the sea and chatted nonsense. As they chatted, Master Bikyu suddenly found that Feifei was absent-minded and answered irrelevant questions. He was completely unlike the Master Xiaowan in the past. He couldn't help but ask Feifei curiously, "What's wrong with you today? You look absent-minded. Has your soul been hooked by Princess Ziki?" Feifei answered without hesitation, "Don't talk nonsense, that's not the case at all. I have given up on her. If you don't believe it, you can ask my bodyguard." Master Bikyu didn't believe it at all. When he asked Feifei's octopus bodyguard, he found out that it was true. He was immediately very surprised and asked Feifei what was going on. Feifei told him that he finally figured it out. Giving others freedom will also give himself freedom. A forced melon is not sweet. Since there is no fate between him and her, why force others? Prince Bikyu never expected that Prince Xiaowan's thought level would be so high. After not seeing him for a few days, he could not help but look at Prince Xiaowan with new eyes. In fact, Prince Bikyu had no idea that Prince Xiaowan was no longer the original Prince Xiaowan, but another person. Nowadays, Feifei, the fake Prince Xiaowan, and Prince Bikyu have almost no common language. After talking for a while, they ran out of things to say, so Prince Bikyu suggested to play the game of octopus playing with dolphins that they used to like to play. Feifei had never seen such a novel game in the sea, and his eyes lit up. After all, he was not the original Prince Bikyu. He immediately nodded and agreed to play this game. Then he followed Prince Bikyu and swam to the place where they used to play this game, the dolphin habitat. This place is not deep sea, but only tens to hundreds of meters away from the sea surface. Because there are many delicious foods that dolphins like to eat here, many kinds of dolphins like to gather here. And some even live here for a long time. Actually, Feifei was here for the first time, so of course he didn't know how to play. To hide his uneasiness and curiosity, he pretended to be modest and said to Mr. Bikyu, "Let you play first today. I'll watch for a while and then play later." Mr. Bikyu responded, "That's easy. I'll let you see today and I'll play a new trick for you." Chapter 551 Farewell to the Ocean. Soon, Feifei followed Prince Bikyu to the dolphin habitat. As expected, Feifei saw many dolphins here, and there were many kinds of dolphins with obvious differences. Feifei couldn't help but shout, "Wow, what a beautiful place, so many cute dolphins, I like it so much." Prince Bikyu immediately turned his head and asked suspiciously, "Hey, Prince Xiaowan, what's wrong with you today? Are you stupid? You and I often come here to play. Have you forgotten and got amnesia?" Feifei thought to himself, "Trouble, I'm exposed." So Feifei had to pretend to be stupid and said, "Why are you so boring? Can't you let me be a little crazy and act stupid occasionally?" Hearing Prince Xiaowan's explanation, Prince Bikyu couldn't help but laugh and cry, muttering in his heart, "But you are never like this before? You must have something on your mind and don't want to tell me, so you deliberately said this." But what could this kid have? Could it be that he said he had given up pursuing Princess Ziki, but actually couldn't let her go? Just when Prince Bikyu was daydreaming, a larger and gray dolphin suddenly swam over from a distance and shouted to them, "Hi, gentlemen, are you free to come and play today? What games do you want to play? I'll play with you too today." It turned out that this was a regular dolphin who lived here for a long time and often played games with him. Prince Bikyu responded to the dolphin and said, "Oh, it's the beautiful Kingjin. How come you are the only one here today? What about the others?" The female dolphin named Kingjin said, "They both have things to do today. I'm the only beautiful girl here to play with you too." "Isn't that enough?" Prince Bikyu hurriedly explained embarrassedly. "It's enough, but we can't play some group projects." Feifei thought, it turns out that Prince Xiaowan and Prince Bikyu often come here to play games with Kingjin and other three female dolphins. It seems that the principle of opposites attract also applies to different species. At this time, the pure female dolphin said again, "How about we play some ordinary projects for a while? If you are not satisfied, I will call a few sisters to help." Prince Bikyu thought for a while and said, "Let's do it this way first. I will play with you." As soon as the voice fell, Prince Bikyu turned to his octopus bodyguard and said, "Galeng, you go up and entangle the pure beauty first. The octopus named Galang immediately swam over and used its 5 tentacles to tightly entangle the whole body of the pure female dolphin, and then used 3 tentacles to hook a seabed pillar respectively, making the dolphin unable to move. At this time, Prince Bikiu swam forward and kept teasing the female dolphin pure, touching her head, kissing her mouth, and even tickling her mischievously, making her moan and scream uncontrollably, but she could not get rid of the bondage of the big octopus and was helpless. After Prince Bikiu had enough fun, they switched roles. The octopus tied Prince Bikiu's hands and feet, and the female dolphin pure teased him. It seemed that she was very familiar with Prince Bikiu's ticklish spots, so she used her mouth to touch and tap those places, making Prince Bikiu laugh so hard that he couldn't stop for a long time. Feifei was stunned and thought, isn't this just letting the dolphin touch my laugh point? Is this fun? It's so boring. The more Feifei watched, the more she felt that these games were meaningless. But Prince Bikiu and the female dolphin Qingjin were having fun playing. After a while, Prince Bikiu played the underwater hide-and-seek game with the female dolphin. They came to the underwater milk rock cave and the place with lush seaweed. First, the big octopus blindfolded the dolphin's eyes, and then Prince Bikiu hid in the milk rock cave or seaweed, and then asked the female dolphin Qingjin to find him. The octopus Galang kept the time. If Prince Bikiu was found within the specified time, Qingjin would win, otherwise, she would lose. The octopus's timing method was very interesting. It was limited to the octopus catching 5.5-meter-long sea fish. If the female dolphin Qingjin won, the male mermaid Prince Bikiu would catch 3 1-meter-long sea fish for her to eat. If she lost, she would be responsible for carrying Prince Bikiu home. This seemed fair and reasonable. As a result, when the octopus was catching the 4th fish, the female dolphin Qingjin found Prince Bikiu. Prince Bikiu had to admit defeat and fish for Qingjin himself, and he could not let the octopus help. In fact, Prince Bikiu's favorite game was still this one. He always wanted to beat the dolphin so that the dolphin could carry him home. However, he lost every time, and he was always unwilling to accept it. He always wanted to beat her again next time, but he didn't think about why she always won. In fact, as long as Prince Bikiu thought about it carefully, he would not be so stubborn and stupid. Obviously, the female dolphin did not win by her eyes, but by her sense of smell. As long as you hide around, no matter how secretive and clever you hide, you can be found by smell, which is the same as the police dog using smell to solve the case. Feifei didn't expect that Prince Bikiu was so stupid on this issue. Afterwards, Prince Bikiu asked Qingjin to find a few female dolphins to play a group game. Unexpectedly, Qingjin called 8 female dolphins at once, which made the place lively and also made Prince Bikiu very happy. He first asked Qingjin and other 9 female dolphins to make some artistic shapes to open everyone's eyes and make everyone happy. Then, he asked the 9 dolphins to make a honeycomb shape, and Prince Bikiu swam back and forth in these honeycombs, and took the opportunity to take advantage of these beautiful dolphins, patting one and touching the other. The last group project is called throwing bombs. First, 8 dolphins crowded together to make a target. Then, Prince Bikiu held a small dolphin and threw the dolphin in his arms towards the target with all his strength to disperse the target. The smart dolphins would naturally not let the dolphin thrown by Prince Bikiu hit them. They would always swim away immediately in the previous second, as if they were smashed open to make Prince Bikiu happy. In fact, this project seemed to be specially set up to comfort Prince Bikiu. After all, he also used all his strength. Later, Feifei felt that he had nothing to do, so he played a few harmless games, and then went home with Prince Bikiu. No mistakes. After returning to Prince Xiaowan's home, Feifei had to pretend to be Prince Xiaowan and try to live in his home like Prince Xiaowan before. I won't go into details here. One day, Feifei suddenly heard a shocking news that Princess Ziki had been engaged to her boyfriend, a nobleman, whom she had secretly fallen in love with. Feifei felt extremely bored at this time, and suddenly wanted to go to the place where he met Princess Ziki on the coast. Soon he came here, sat on the big rock where Princess Ziki had sat, looked out at the sea, and fell into deep thought. But at this moment, a big bird suddenly flew in the sky, fired a laser at Feifei, and killed him immediately. Then, Feifei's soul flew into the brain of this big bird that flew from nowhere, and Feifei was reborn as a big bird again. Unexpectedly, this was not an ordinary bird, but an intelligent biological robot bird. Chapter 552 Special Mission. It is said that both Susan lemur and Shisu elephant received instructions to go to a certain place to accept a new mission. They traveled day and night, and arrived at the same place several days later. Because Susan lemur walked on the air corridor in the forest of the apes, and Shisu elephant walked faster than the apes on the plains with a big step, but there were many more forests on this planet than plains and grasslands, Shisu elephant took many detours and took many wrong turns. Even if he learned the information about the shortest route suitable for elephants from the scientific research team, he still arrived 2 days later than Susan lemur. Susan waited for 2 days in boredom, but a young male elephant came. He was very surprised and asked him. He found out that the visitor was the same as himself, and he also received instructions from the scientific research team to come here. When Susan asked him what his name was, the elephant said his name was Shisu. Susan was shocked and asked him if he had been a toad, a big flower snake, a female eagle, an ant, etc. in his previous life. The purple elephant was very surprised and asked, "Yes, the animals you mentioned are my past lives." "Hey, how do you know so clearly? Did those scientists tell you?" At this time, Susan's eyes were already filled with tears, and she said excitedly, "I am Susan. I am the Susan who has had a relationship with you for several lifetimes." Zisu was immediately shocked and asked stutteringly, "You are the butterfly Susan, the beautiful snake Susan, the eagle Susan, the queen of the ant empire Susan. I have been looking for you, it's so hard, my Susan baby." Before she finished speaking, she had already burst into tears and couldn't speak. Susan could no longer control her excitement, and immediately flew towards the purple elephant, pressed her face tightly against the purple elephant's big face, and gently stroked the elephant's face and huge ears. The purple elephant's hot tears flowed on Susan's lemur's head like a spring, as if a shower head was washing Susan's hair, making Susan feel refreshed, and her mood suddenly became refreshed. Just as they were talking to each other, suddenly, 2 large birds swooped down from the clouds. When they flew about 200 meters above Susan and Zisu, they suddenly used the micro-laser transmitters on their ankles to shoot lasers at the vital points of Susan and Zisu, killing them immediately. Then, their souls left their lifeless bodies and entered the brains of the 2 large birds, thus controlling the consciousness and thinking of the 2 large birds and completing reincarnation again. At this moment, Susan and his friends realized that this reincarnation was very different from the previous ones. They found that the large bird they were currently parasitizing was actually an intelligent biological eagle, with tenacious vitality and extremely long lifespan. Moreover, the huge energy required by the laser transmitter on its ankle was freely transmitted in space through neutrino energy waves. As long as you think, your brain waves will be transmitted to the sensor element on the laser transmitter on your ankle. As much as you want, it will be transmitted from the air. It is really advanced. Afterwards, Susan and his companions received instructions from the research team, asking them to go to an isolated island in the sea to eliminate the monster zombies secretly created by highly intelligent robots on the isolated island, and eliminate possible hidden dangers for the aliens on this planet. After several days of flying, Susan and Zisu, the 2 intelligent biological eagles, finally flew to a large island of more than 100,000 square kilometers. There were dense trees and colorful flowers and plants everywhere, as well as thousands of various animals and insects. It was really a tourist attraction with an excellent natural environment. But what people never expected was that such a beautiful island was actually a secret base for zombie research and experiments when highly intelligent robots ruled this planet in the past. It stands to reason that since the aliens regained the right to rule this planet, all highly intelligent robots should be controlled to prevent them from making trouble again and making a comeback. Of course, there will definitely be some fish that slip through the net. Obviously, the recent appearance of a large number of zombies here has caused great danger to the natural species here, which means that there are still many remnants of highly intelligent robots that have not been controlled or eliminated. The mission of Susan and his team on this trip is to first eliminate as many zombies as possible, and secondly, to find a way to lead out highly intelligent robots and report to the scientific research team so that they can control or eliminate these guys who are still making trouble. It is now broad daylight. Susan and his team flew back and forth hundreds of meters above this big island, looking down from a bird's eye view for a long time, but did not find anything abnormal. Could it be that this group of zombies who are making trouble insist on acting at night? If so, Susan and Zisu will have to go out to search and observe at night. The intelligent biological eagle that Su San and his team are now reborn into is not an intelligent robot bird, but a special biological bird. It not only has night vision like an owl, but also can drink seawater like a seagull, while also retaining the basic function of drinking fresh water. In addition, they also carry a kind of high-energy compressed food. As long as they eat a little bit of rice grains each time, they can ensure that they will not be hungry for a day or two. Of course, after eating these high-energy compressed foods, they can also catch small and medium-sized animals such as snakes, mice, rabbits and fish on the ground to fill their stomachs like ordinary eagles, and their vitality and lifespan are comparable to those of many ordinary animals. After nightfall, Su San and his team took off again and flew into the air to start the night patrol search. This time they flew separately, one south and one north, Su San to the south and Zissou to the north. They agreed that whoever found the target first would report to the other party in time through the neutrino communicator bound to his eagle leg by the scientific research team, so that the other party would rush to help immediately. About 3 hours later, Su San, who was flying south, suddenly found hundreds of zombies secretly gathering in the depths of a dense forest, and seemed to be planning to take some secret actions. Seeing this, Su San immediately informed Zissou and asked him to rush to reinforce. At this moment, Zissou and Su San were 300 to 400 kilometers apart. Even at the fastest flying speed, it would take an hour to rush over. Therefore, Zissou warned Su San not to take action yet, but just to secretly monitor and wait for Su San to fly over before taking action together. At this moment, the zombies had assembled and began to move rapidly to the southeast. Su San was flying in the air to track the group of zombies, while notifying Zissou of his exact location at any time. About an hour later, the group of zombies arrived at the outskirts of a chimpanzee tribe. In this tribe, there were 200 or 300 chimpanzees gathered. Obviously, this group of zombies attempted to take adverse actions against this group of chimpanzees. No mistakes, one post, one content, 1-6, one book, one bar, one look. At this moment, Zissou came from hundreds of kilometers away at lightning speed to meet Su San. The two of them exchanged ideas and decided immediately that as soon as the zombies attacked the sleeping chimpanzees, they would attack the zombies from the left and right to ensure the safety of as many chimpanzees as possible. Chapter 553, Eliminating Demons and Monsters. As expected, the monster-like zombies soon began to act. They actually divided into 3 groups. The left and right groups first surrounded the chimpanzee tribe's village, trying to surround the entire chimpanzee village. Then the zombies in the middle group slowly moved towards the chimpanzee tribe, intending to make a breakthrough in the middle. Just as this group of damn zombies were preparing to go on a killing spree, Su San took action first. He aimed at the top of the zombie walking in front, used his brain's thoughts, and activated the laser transmitter on his ankle. Suddenly, a dazzling laser shot directly at the zombie's head. In an instant, the zombie's head was burned into charcoal. The zombie immediately died and fell to the ground. Almost at the same time, Zissou also started to act, also firing a beam of laser, killing a zombie that jumped the most happily. As zombies were shot and killed one by the sudden laser, the zombies finally felt that the situation was not good, and immediately stopped the sneak attack on the chimpanzee tribe and began to retreat to their own nest. You damn zombies, since you are here, don't think about going back so quickly. Su San and Zissou then continued to chase and kill the zombies, not wanting to give them a chance to escape. However, because the zombies were escaping in all directions, their targets were scattered, and they were moving very fast. In addition, there were dense branches and leaves blocking many places. Su San and Zissou's pursuit became less and less effective. They either missed the vital points or simply couldn't find the target. In this way, many zombies took the opportunity to escape back to their nests and reported to the highly intelligent robots the reasons for their failure. When Su San and his team chased to the zombie's nest, they were suddenly hit back by the highly intelligent robots. At least dozens of medium-sized laser cannons hidden in the dark attacked Su San and Zissou at the same time, and Su San and his team, who only had 2 micro-laser cannons, could not resist at all. Su San and Zissou's wings were immediately pierced by the opponent's laser cannon, leaving dozens of black and burned holes. Among them, Su San was the most seriously injured. His stomach was also burned through by the opponent's laser cannon, and his intestines were exposed. His body then fell straight to the ground and finally landed on a large tree with lush branches and leaves. Zissou was not much better. In addition to the serious injury to his wings, his tail was also shot off by the laser cannon of the highly intelligent robot and fell to the ground. Unfortunately, he did not fall on the tree, but in the weeds. At this time, they could no longer complete their mission and had to ask for help from the headquarters, the scientific research team. A few minutes later, a giant invisible science fiction flying saucer appeared in the sky, and then stretched out more than a dozen giant laser cannons, and fiercely fired at the position of the opponent's medium-sized laser cannon on the ground just reported by Zissou, and immediately burned that area into a large black area. Then, a small flying saucer flew out from the giant invisible sci-fi flying saucer and landed 2 meters away from Zissou. A mechanical arm stretched out from the flying saucer, grabbed Zissou, the injured intelligent biological eagle, and put it into the flying saucer. Then, the flying saucer took off and hovered beside the crown of the big tree where Su-san fell. It also stretched out a mechanical arm to grab Su-san into the flying saucer. After that, the flying saucer returned to the giant flying saucer, and then the giant flying saucer flew back to the Seoul Transplantation Research and Experiment Scientific Research Base to treat the burns on Su-san and Zissou. A few days later, the healed Su-san and his friends took the giant flying saucer again to return to the zombie island last time. Hundreds of controlled combat robots came down from the giant flying saucer and began to search for highly intelligent robots all over the island. It was a good idea to use robots to fight robots, and Su-san and Zissou were responsible for continuing to search and eliminate zombies all over the island. Now, with a powerful backer commanding on the spot, Su-san and Zissou's confidence doubled, and they searched and hunted zombies all over the island without restraint. Once they encountered a fierce counterattack, it meant that there were highly intelligent robots. They immediately reported to the giant flying saucer, and in the blink of an eye, they would receive strong support, and in a moment, they would destroy the highly intelligent robots, and then call in combat robots to dig up the ground, find and destroy the zombies and highly intelligent robots still hiding in the tunnels. In other words, Su-san and Zissou were responsible for searching and destroying the zombies on the ground, reporting the location of the laser cannons of the highly intelligent robots on the ground, and the combat robots coming down from the flying saucer were responsible for dealing with the zombies and highly intelligent robots under the ground. A month later, all the zombies and highly intelligent robots remaining on this zombie island were finally completely wiped out by the aliens and Su-san. Afterwards, Su-san and Zissou went to another large island to eliminate a very aggressive strange species, the tiger-headed zombie wasp. However, after they arrived at the scene, they found that if they used laser cannons to shoot billions or even tens of billions of tiger-headed zombie wasps, it would be like throwing stones to fill the sea, which would be useless. As a last resort, they had to report the situation to the headquarters. Soon, the headquarters sent hundreds of flying saucers, each of which was filled with hundreds of cooling bombs. Each cooling bomb could instantly reduce the temperature within hundreds of square meters by 70 to 80 degrees Celsius, thereby freezing all animals and insects within the range to death. The side effect of doing so is also obvious, that is, it will also eliminate many good animal and insect species, but apart from this method, is there a better way to deal with this group of rampant pests? This is also the only way. With such a powerful weapon, the rampant tiger-headed zombie wasps on this island were quickly eliminated. Who would have thought that before Su-san and Zissou had time to rest for 2 days, they received a new order to go to Antarctica to participate in the demon-killing operation, eliminate the ice and snow monsters there, and protect wild species such as penguins and polar bears in Antarctica. It turns out that this big Earth is not much different from the Earth in our solar system. It is also divided into Antarctica and Arctic. These two places are covered with ice and snow all year round, and there are penguins in both places. There are polar bears in the Arctic and polar bears in Antarctica. In addition, marine creatures such as seals, sea lions, sea tigers, fur seals, sea pigs and sea bears often appear on the coasts of these two continents. Who would have thought that on this day, through satellite observation, tens of millions of ice and snow monsters suddenly appeared in the hinterland of Antarctica, which posed a great danger to all wild species living here. No mistake, one song, one post, one content, 1 book, 1 bar. Obviously, this is another good thing done by the remnant forces of highly intelligent robots left on the planet. The humans on the planet paid enough attention to this emergency, dispatching 36 giant flying saucers and more than 800 medium-sized flying saucers, which were equipped with tens of thousands of laser cannons and carried 10,000 controlled combat robots. The participation of Su-san and Zissou was actually not very helpful to them and was dispensable. Their purpose of participating was probably mainly to observe the scene and learn from the experience. Of course, if there was a chance to take action, they would not give up. This would definitely be of great help to them in carrying out missions alone in the future. Chapter 554, Dune Monster. Unexpectedly, in this seemingly one-sided battle, the alien humans, who had a huge air advantage and a luxurious lineup, would be beaten and flee by the other side. It turned out that the alien humans relied on their huge air advantage to beat the ice and snow monsters on the ground to pieces, and they were defeated. Seeing victory in sight, suddenly, the highly intelligent robots hidden underground launched waves of high-energy antimatter missiles from somewhere, instantly killing half of the alien humans' giant flying saucers and 200 or 300 medium-sized flying saucers, causing the alien humans' combat fleet to suffer heavy losses in this battle, and had to retreat urgently. Could it be that the remnants of highly intelligent robots still have such powerful strength hidden on this planet? This is simply unbelievable. In this way, after the alien-human battle fleet escaped from the battlefield, the audience who originally came to watch the battle performance, Su-san and Zissou, now became the protagonists of the next battle. They were responsible for completing the reconnaissance activities of the enemies hidden under the ice and snow, and reporting to the fleet headquarters in time, so that they could send new combat troops to eliminate these stubborn enemies. This was undoubtedly a very difficult task for Su-san and his team. The enemy had antimatter missiles that even the advanced alien battle fleet was afraid of. If Su-san and his team were also hit by such a missile, they might be terrified and it would be difficult for them to reincarnate after death. However, no matter how scared they were, the mission had to be completed. Su-san and Zissou gritted their teeth and trembled as they flew over the extremely cold Antarctica to search, and also focused on carefully observing and exploring the scene of the warring parties to find clues of the enemy. As expected, after careful searching, they soon found several places where the enemy had launched antimatter missiles. So they called the combat fleet headquarters to quickly dispatch engineer robots to dig these suspicious places and find the hiding places of the remaining high-intelligence robots so as to follow the clues and destroy them. The engineer robots sent by the superiors were soon transported here by super-flying saucers. When they came out, Su-san and his friends saw that they were several large excavators like transformers. As soon as they got off the flying saucers, they went straight to the suspicious places reported by Su-san and started digging non-stop. After a while, they dug out a large pit several tens of meters deep, and finally revealed the tunnel where the enemy was hiding. So, they used super explosives to blow up the enemy's tunnel, and then sent combat robots into the tunnel to search, track and destroy the enemy. Unexpectedly, the combat robots lost contact soon after entering the tunnel. It is conceivable that our troops encountered trouble in the tunnel and were likely to be destroyed by the enemy. What to do? Su-san had to report the situation here to the combat fleet headquarters again. Soon, several small flying saucers equipped with perspective mirrors that could see thousands of meters below were sent over. They hovered over the area for perspective reconnaissance and soon drew a structural diagram of the enemy's underground tunnel attack. Subsequently, the combat fleet headquarters sent a super ground-penetrating missile battalion based on the newly drawn enemy tunnel structure diagram, and ordered the robots of the missile battalion to launch ground-penetrating missiles at the entrances of the enemy's tunnels, drill into the tunnels, and blow up the enemy's forts and key facilities in the tunnels. After blowing up a section of the tunnel, a large excavator was sent down to dig out the bombed part, dig out a new tunnel entrance that had not been bombed, and then launch a ground-penetrating missile to attack the enemy. This cycle was repeated and the ground-penetrating missiles were finally used to blow up the enemy's tunnel that was 800 meters deep and tens of kilometers long. However, this had been fought day and night for half a month, and the hard work was self-evident. During this period, the enemy also launched several counterattacks and even launched antimatter missiles. However, the explosion caused by the collision between antimatter missiles and ground-penetrating missiles caused even more serious losses to the enemy itself. Therefore, the enemy hiding in the tunnels no longer dared to launch antimatter missiles easily. In this way, they had no power to fight back in the face of our powerful offensive, and could only defend themselves. Not long after, they became quiet and disappeared. Perhaps the enemy realized that they could no longer resist and moved to other places. In short, by this time in the battle, the ice and snow monsters in Antarctica had been wiped out, and there was no trace of the highly intelligent robots. Su-san and his mission was considered completed. A week later, Su-san received a new mission, saying that many moving sand dunes were found in a super desert on a certain continent. These moving sand dunes were more than 10 kilometers long and wide, and 200 to 300 to 400 to 500 meters high. Their behavior was very strange, and they were in the opposite direction of the strong wind, as if they were committing crimes against the wind. This matter really looked strange. After receiving the order, Su-san and Zissou immediately flew to the scene. They looked down from hundreds of meters in the air and found that the sand dunes in the desert were really strange. They were moving in one direction at a speed that could be seen by the naked eye, and had nothing to do with the direction of the wind. Could it be that there were some unknown secrets hidden under these sand dunes? How could we know what was hidden under them? Su-san thought about it and asked the headquarters to dispatch 100 giant excavators to dig up the thick yellow sands on a sand dune to see what was under these moving sand dunes. In a blink of an eye, 20 giant flying saucers flew over and brought 100 giant excavators. After these excavators came down, they surrounded a sand dune and dug desperately. Not long after, a body covered with armor-like scales was revealed inside, about 15 or 16 kilometers long and wide. At the top of the sand dune, a huge black hole that could be closed and opened was revealed. Perhaps this was the monster's big mouth. Sure enough, when a giant excavator dug the top of the sand dune and revealed this huge black mouth, the giant beast actually aimed at the giant excavator near its mouth and suddenly sprayed out a high-temperature flame of nearly 2,000 degrees Celsius, which was dozens of meters high, and instantly burned the giant excavator. No mistake, one poem, one post, one content, 1619, one book, one bar. Seeing this, Su-san and Zissou hurriedly fired laser cannons at the giant beast, but unexpectedly, they only hurt its fur and did not cause any harm. What was counterproductive was that Su-san and Zissou's actions angered the giant beast. It twisted its giant mouth and continuously sprayed high-temperature flames at dozens of giant excavators around it, and the farther it sprayed, the bigger it sprayed. The farthest flame was as high as more than 10,000 meters, almost burning all the hundreds of giant excavators on it. Fortunately, more than 30 giant excavators that were far away from the fire-breathing giant mouth reacted in time. Seeing that the situation was not good, they fled quickly and finally escaped this disaster. Su-san and his companions, who had been hovering in the air at an altitude of 500 to 600 meters, felt the burning heat of the monsters and could not bear it. They had to fly up to a height of several thousand meters to avoid the attack of the flames. Su-san was quick-witted and immediately applied to the headquarters to quickly dispatch the ground-penetrating missile battalion to launch ground-penetrating missiles at the heads of the moving dune monsters to destroy them. Chapter 555, Finale. The headquarters quickly approved Su-san's request and immediately dispatched a ground-penetrating missile battalion with 3 giant flying saucers. As Su-san expected, the ground-penetrating missile battalion immediately fired a ground-penetrating high-energy missile at the head of each dune monster, blowing the dune monsters up into the sky one by one, and easily and happily eliminated the group of dune monsters. In this battle, Su-san's performance was remarkable and he was praised and rewarded by the headquarters, and Zissou also benefited from it. 2 days later, Feifei also flew to meet the two of them. Su-san was overjoyed when he heard that Feifei was also from an alien planet like the two of them. Soon everyone was laughing and gathered together. Later, Feifei said that he had received an order from his superiors to let the 3 of them go together to perform a new mission, so everyone stepped up their preparations and set off early the next morning. It turns out that in recent days, there is an ocean called Shapazhao thousands of miles away. It is surrounded by the vast ocean, but this ocean is rarely visited by people. It is densely covered with forests, grasslands and grasslands. It was originally a paradise for all kinds of animals, insects, flowers and plants. However, suddenly, a large group of fire-breathing birds appeared. When they were unhappy, they would spit fire for fun. As a result, such a beautiful place was filled with thick smoke and blazing fires. Forest fires broke out everywhere, threatening all kinds of creatures that have lived here for generations with unprecedented disasters. Obviously, this may be another masterpiece of the remnants of highly intelligent robots. After several days of long-distance flight, Feifei and the other two finally arrived at Shapazhao and began a careful search. Soon they found that smoke was billowing in the southeast direction and the smoke was billowing into the sky, so the three of them flew to the forest fire scene without stopping. However, when they arrived at the scene and searched for a long time, they did not find a single feather of the fire-breathing bird. All they saw was a raging fire, billowing smoke, and the smell of burning trees in the forest. This made Feifei and the other two very angry. They wanted to find the hidden runner immediately and skin him alive to relieve their hatred. At this time, Su Sam suggested that we expand the search range to search within a radius of 100 miles around. Feifei agreed and then divided the troops into 3 groups, 1 person per group, to conduct a large-scale search. Whoever found the target first would immediately report to the other 2 to come for reinforcement. 2 hours later, Su Sam first found the fire-breathing bird and immediately notified Feifei and Zissou to come to support him. He landed on a tall tree canopy to get close for reconnaissance and a closer look. But just as he was concentrating on observing the movements of several fire-breathing birds on the opposite side, he was unexpectedly discovered by another fire-breathing bird hiding in a big tree not far behind him. This bird had doubts about Su San, a creature eagle that he had never seen before, and felt that he would bring a threat to his side, the fire-breathing bird, so he rashly decided to strike first and launched a surprise attack on Su San. Just as the fire-breathing bird rushed out of the tree canopy and flew to a place 30 or 40 meters above Su San's back, about to spray flames at Su San and burn him to death, Su San suddenly felt the danger coming, and immediately took off without hesitation and flew into the sky, just avoiding the flames sprayed by the bird behind him. The flames instantly ignited the tree canopy where Su San had just lived. Although the flames did not burn Su San, he still felt the hot air under him was suffocating, and he immediately tried his best to fly higher into the sky. However, the fire-breathing bird became furious when it saw that his carefully planned assassination had failed. It immediately followed Su San, chasing him relentlessly and spraying flames from time to time. However, the distance of the flames it sprayed was less than 200 meters, but despite this, Su San was still in danger and was in danger. Seeing that Su San was about to be caught up by the fire-breathing bird and was about to be killed by it in panic, Feifei finally arrived on horseback, dropped from the sky, and aimed his laser cannon at the fire-breathing bird from 1,000 meters away, killing it and saving Su San's life. Then, Feifei caught up with Su San and complained, "Hey, men, how come you only knew how to run away and didn't know how to use your laser cannon to fight back?" Su San blushed and replied, "I was scared at the time and just wanted to get rid of the monster bird's pursuit as soon as possible. I didn't have time to turn around and didn't have a chance to fight back." Feifei thought for a while and said, "In that case, then the 3 of us shouldn't act separately. If we act together, we can at least take care of each other to avoid accidents like what happened just now." Feifei's proposal was naturally unanimously agreed by everyone, so the 3 of them gathered together and began to launch a ruthless encirclement and suppression operation against those forest arsonists, the fire-breathing monster birds. The 3 of them flew forward in a product shape, searching everywhere. When they saw the fire-breathing birds, they immediately shot them with laser cannons, causing them to be defeated and flee. After the enemy birds were beaten and hid and dared not show their heads, they called the headquarters to dispatch a small flying saucer equipped with a perspective scanning telescope to search for the enemy birds hidden in the dense leaves and caves, and then Feifei and his team destroyed them one by one. After more than 2 months of fighting, they finally destroyed tens of thousands of fire-breathing birds, and during this period, they also found a small group of highly intelligent robots who were still trying to make a comeback. Afterwards, Feifei and his team participated in dozens of battles, helping the aliens to completely defeat and eliminate the remnants of the highly intelligent robots, making great contributions to the aliens on the planet. In recognition of the outstanding contributions and achievements of Feifei, Susan and Zissou, the highest authorities announced that the 3 of them became official citizens of the planet. Feifei's soul entered the brain of a young and healthy male prisoner on death row and became a male citizen. Susan replaced a young and healthy female prisoner on death row and became a female citizen, and Zissou followed his own wishes and remained a highly intelligent biological eagle for the time being. Not long after, Feifei, as a diplomatic envoy of the human beings on the planet, boarded a super light-speed super-universe flying saucer and returned to his hometown, the Earth in the solar system. It can be said that he returned home in glory. Unexpectedly, when he returned to the place where he was born, he suddenly found that more than 300 years had passed. Even his little sister's great-grandchildren had 8 or 9 generations, and they looked much older than him. This made him sigh and sigh. Obviously, after seeing him, all his younger relatives regarded him as a monster or a god. None of them believed that this was true. After all, he had changed from an earthling to an alien, and his appearance were very different. Naturally, Susan also took a superluminal super spacecraft and returned to her hometown, the Jing system Meilanfang star. Her experience was somewhat similar to Feifei's, but unlike Feifei's experience, her younger relatives believed that everything she said was true, because the technological civilization of Meilanfang star was very advanced. They also had superluminal spacecraft, and similar situations had occurred. Only Zizou did not want to return to the Earth for the time being, and still wanted to live her own way and entertain herself on the Tiankui system Earth. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone, see you in the next video.